Will is here. Will, you can send through a request, and I'll make you speaker. Okay, there we go. Let me just set up. Okay, so the recording has started. I believe we can begin.
Cool. Thank you, Test. Welcome to everyone to the space to hashtag Your Money Talks. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Today we'll be discussing or having a general chat about purchasing a house and a car. And towards the end, we'll have opened the doors for any other people want to ask questions to come on or want to make comments. But today we've just invited Will and Lady of Property to come and have a chat with us from their experiences. Cool, Tiz, I think you can take it on.
Okay, just to inform everyone that we are recording the session. It's actually being live streamed on YouTube. That's where the recording will be, especially for those who are unfortunately not able to make it because they have other commitments, like celebrating Kaiser Chiefs' victory. So we've recorded it for them, and it will be available immediately after the session. Like Fred has said, who has unfortunately jumped off, I think he's got connection issues. We will be having a very general discussion. We're not going to go in depth, so you can put away your calculators and your notepads. I don't think it's going to get that intense. We will open the floor up if you do have any questions or contributions you would like to make. Those would those would be welcome as well. So,
I'm
lady,
still here.
oh, I don't see your profile, but anyway,
All right. That's fine.
we'll get started. And like Fred, I don't think most of the people know here that our Your Money Talks space session is actually an award-winning show. I saw, is it S African Twitter Spaces? They put us up because we got 100 listeners in. And I know what you're saying. Oh, this person had 2,000 or that person had 5,000. In the end, they didn't appear there, so they didn't generally win. But yeah, hopefully one day we will be in the top 5. But time will tell. So I think I'll start with S. Because the letter in your name comes first, so I'll go by alphabetical order. Can you just give us a journey or your story when it comes to what you faced when you were buying property? Maybe from the beginning, your experiences.
Oh, hey. So we're starting with the house, not the car. Okay. I'll
Important ones
start with
first.
the important important ones first. So I bought my first property probably about 10 years ago, and that was more of an investment property more than anything, because it was for my parents. I think as we all know, some of us didn't come from well-to-do backgrounds, so I bought the property primarily for my parents. I started shopping around. I found a area as we could do at the time, We looked around and found a great area. We liked the
Sorry, can
area.
everyone hear is?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if everyone can hear me, please just maybe put a thumbs up or 100 so I know I'm not talking to myself. Okay, so I see other people can hear me. Okay, I'll carry on. If you can't hear me, please just let me know.
Yeah, I think you
So as I
can.
was
Sorry, I think you can carry on. From my side, it is recording. So if there
okay,
is anything lost, they will catch up.
all right, super. So we bought the house around 2011. I bought at the time I was working for the bank, which is very important to note because as a staff member, I had to, in terms of interest, I got repo rate, so that was a good thing. And repo rate basically means the rate at which the banks, treasury lends money to the bank. So we as staff got that benefit. So checked out the area. The area was good. There was schools close by. That was very important for us because it was going to be, a family home / investment property. The shops were close by. There was a hospital close by. So we did our homework. The one thing, I think at the time I was 21, so I don't think I negotiated as much as I should have with the agent. So the agent, when we bought the property, we overbought. In terms of just looking at, you can do a quick search if you're buying property. I think it's Moonstone. I don't know if it's Moonstone or Moonlight. One of them offers free property assessment. I think Private Property and Property 24 have also entered the market, where you can sort of gauge. They give you graphs. What is the average price of the property in the area? But when I was buying, there wasn't a lot of that around, so we didn't have a proper gauge to gauge how much properties were going for in the area. Nonetheless, we bought the property. We paid in a small deposit at the time. We put in a deposit. We put in the offer to purchase. And lo and behold, I knew before we went property shopping, or before I went property shopping, I got a pre-approval from the bank that I was working for. So I already had the pre-approval. I knew more or less how much I qualified for. And what I qualified for was less than what the property price was. So we put in a deposit to try and sort of get to the price level. We bought the property, everything was fine. And then literally, I think our lives changed. We were staying in the property at the time as a family, so I was taking care of my siblings, and everyone was staying in that property. But then my siblings went away to university, so I was by myself in the property for like 2 years, and the property was just too big for me to stay there. So then I decided to move out and put it on rent. So year one of renting the property was great. I had a great tenant. The tenant was paying on time. Everything was going great. Municipal bills were up to date and everything. Year two, fine. Year three, my good tenant moves out. So then I start looking for a new tenant. And by that time, obviously now I'm married. I'm no longer single. So I've moved out of the property. I'm married. I've also now bought a second property with my husband now. So my life has drastically changed financially and, from other perspective. So the property is still there, but tenant starts giving me issues. And the law, unfortunately, favors tenants and not property owners. So to try and get a tenant out is a nightmare. I've experienced it. It's a nightmare. You first have to discuss with the tenant. If the tenant doesn't pay, you can go to small claims court, which takes time. And if claims court doesn't work, you can take them to court, and if that doesn't work, then you have to get an eviction order, and that can take a really long time. In the meantime, if you're still paying a bond like me, you're still servicing the bond, and you've still got other financial obligations that you have on the side. So that went on for some time, and I eventually got rid of that tenant, and I found another tenant. Year one with now the third tenant is great. Year two, the guy loses his job and tells me he can't service the bond because he's lost his job. I'm obviously sympathetic, and I'm understanding. In the first month, the second month, the third month, it now starts impacting me. We start discussing, and he now starts giving me the runaround. I'm trying to collect the rent. He's not paying me the rent, and that went on. I think that was my last tenant. So that was in around 2019, yeah. 2019, the whole of 2019. My tenant was literally not paying me for 6 months, and he was giving me the runaround. Hence, now I started thinking of small claims court and other things. And eventually he moves out, and that is almost 6 months later. The property is in shambles because he's been staying there with his family, and he hasn't really been taking care of the property. So I'm now stuck with this debt that he's left me. I think he left me with over 10,000 Rand in municipal bills, and obviously no rentals collected. I then decided to sort of renovate the property, which then cost me quite a bit because I now had to try and make the property attractive for other tenants or buyers to come and buy. That happens around, so I start building around August. Sorry, I had the dates wrong. So the guy moved out mid 2019, late 2019. I started renovating. I only finished renovations around Jan 2020. I finished renovating the property in Jan 2020. I put the property on the market because now I'm ready to exit this property deal that I had. I then list the property. I put it on the market. Immediately, I put it on the market around Feb 2020. March 2020, we go in lockdown. So there's no agents bringing anybody to see the property to try and get rid of this property. In the meantime, I'm incurring, obviously, I'm having to pay the previous guy's municipal bills as well as his 40,000 Rand bill that he'd left me in unpaid rent. Having worked in the banks and knowing how it operates, I asked one of my colleagues to give me a contact through the auction houses because I wanted to go through the auction route. I got hold of WH auctioneers who then assisted me. They came out, they viewed the property, they valued it, gave me a reasonable value that they thought they could auction it at. We sort of came to an agreement. They brought, I think, one Friday, a month later. So I signed the deal, everything. A month later, they held the auction on a Friday. We got a buyer for the property. It wasn't the price that I wanted, but it was at least maybe a few hundred less than what I wanted. And the auctioneer obviously was good. He tried to bring, because obviously the buyer and the seller, we have to meet each other halfway. Luckily, the buyer in this case was willing to up the price to at least the minimum of what I wanted. So last year, officially around December, the sale of that property went through, and that's how I sort of exited the property investment field. So that has been my experience so far.
Okay, awesome. While you were speaking, I was writing down questions. So I will definitely ask a few questions on your side. Lady, do you want to tell us about your journey?
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me, guys. I think my journey, I'm gonna start it off from when we lost our home, right? I think that was what sparked my interest in having a property as an investment tool. We lost our home and I had to build for my mom, right? That meant that I had to project manage the building. I had to come in and actually learn about finances, learn about costing, and learning more on how to structure building any building, actually. Let me put it like that. So there I was, a young project manager. I think I was at the age of 20 because I finished school very early when I started getting my bursary money. So I would go on and I would study where to find the best bricks, the best prices for different things, for instance, right? And then I learned that through, I think, one of the other television shows that I love watching. Everybody in my family will tell you that I'm always watching TLC. I always wondered what it meant to flip houses, right? Because people are always saying in dollars these huge monies that they would make, and they would say they are flippers. So it sparked a curiosity in me to say that what does it mean to flip? What are these people up to? What gives them that platform? Do you need to be qualified to become a flipper? What's going on, right? And then I went on. This was varsity. The first year, struggled to pay. My mom was in it. Second year, I got my bursary. Third, fourth, we started saving up and buying material. And then we built the structure. And then I went on. I came to Pretoria. I think I've been here for more than a decade. I'm not as good with dates as us, but then I started staying in Pretoria. One of the places that I stayed in was next to this, what is it called? University of Pretoria, Farenden Street. I'm not sure if you guys know it, not far from Depenar. So the thing is, I started living a lifestyle that was above what I should. Not that I can't afford it. I think my conversation is there's affording a place because the numbers make sense at the end of the month, and there's not really affording it because you miss opportunities or you cannot invest sufficiently because you're catering to that. So that was the area that I stayed in Farenden. Luckily, it was a rental area, right? It was a rental agreement, and then I actually decided to move, right? Because I felt like I am actually young. I should be in a space whereby I'm alone, I don't have any kids. I should be in a space whereby I am comfortable with moving to a smaller area that is safe but provides me the same or similar comfort without the amount of money that I was paying. So I think I was paying around 7.8 at that point for a bachelor. I moved and I went to Capital Park. Capital Park, I stayed in this bachelor area that luckily it came with furniture because I took my furniture and I gave it to my mom because we had just finished her house. So it didn't make sense for me to have furniture whereby my mom was struggling. So I took all the furniture I had and I gave it to my mother, right? And then I went on to stay. I'm not going to share everywhere I stayed, but I'm going to share one of the main things that contributed to my journey. I went on to stay in Capital Park. Capital Park is one of these. It was one of these estates whereby um, it had. I think it had almost 22 rooms. Let me put it like that: rooms or bachelor units. So here's the thing. When I stayed there, I still had an interest in actually saying, how can I make money from property? That's where I started making an income. I went to the landlord after actually what transpired before that was that there was a new owner and the owner was losing tenants. There were no people coming in. So she was concerned with that um, she should sell the place because it didn't make sense for her anymore. The place was a lodge before, so it had a conference center and all these facilities that one could use. So I went to the landlord and actually went on to say, can we create a rent to rent kind of um, agreement? It's not formal, it's not so legal, but it gives me the opportunity to make an extra income to maintain the place, well, not the place, but the tenants on your behalf because you stay in Johannesburg. So it costs you a lot of money. So that's where my income started to come in from property, right? And yeah, I started making money. I started saying, these are the tenants I'm bringing. This is how much you can give me. And on a monthly basis, this is what will come through. But with time, there was a point whereby we couldn't come to an understanding because there was nothing legally binding us. It wasn't anything that was formalized. So the landlord eventually made it uncomfortable, and then I decided to leave. But it wasn't just an instantaneous, I'm leaving. I needed to plan my exit. I needed to save up money for my house, right? Then I was like, okay, this is not working for me. How do I get out? Getting out and going back to renting again didn't make sense for me. I wanted to have value for my money. And then now starts the two bed, one bath story that you always hear from property or developed property, whatever they are, property investors, right? I went on to say, let me actually go get a two-bed, two-bath, right? Um, my journey was not well informed. I like what S said. She says, she didn't use the right tools, or at that time they were not available. It's actually called a Lightstone report. She didn't use the tools to identify what is she buying. And I am also one of those people that can concur and say, "Hore, that is my experience as well. I didn't know what I was buying. And I'm still seeing it even today. People are comfortable to go view a place just because it looks nice outside. They're not exposed to exactly what they are buying. And that's the conversation that I'm driving. I want to expose people to the decision they're making, right? I want us to move away from buying houses because we are looking at the structure and we feel it's okay. So this is where my two bed, one bath structure starts, right? I bought in an area whereby the structure needed some work, right? So I went on to the estate agent and the lady that was selling at the time, and I said, guys, I am interested in this property. However, I am not willing to pay 100 Rand for it. I will pay for 60 Rand. Because I had heard it before, right? That make a ridiculous offer. And that day I decided to just be stupid and brave at the same time. But it paid off. The owner was like, no, 100 Rand won't be enough. Let's go for 80 Rand. But here's the thing, as much as I felt I made a killing, after some time I realized that actually I had bought a property that is is not an asset in a way. It's more of a debt, not even an equity. So let me unpack what I am saying. Um, most of us, or most of first time home buyers, when they buy their structures, they do not put in effort to have a due diligence process, okay? To ask the people, the person that is selling the house, to ask that person and say, where is your maintenance plan? What have you spent on? To look at the budget. What are they mostly spending on? Are they spending on just fixing lights? Is it preventative maintenance? What are they really spending into? To have someone that knows what a structure is, coming into a house and viewing it on your own, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But it puts you under risk because you do not know what it is that you are looking for. I'm not sure if I make sense, but I hope I do. Let me expand on that. Um, it would be far more beneficial to have a person look at the whole in structure, the roofing, if the building is sustainable enough, will it stand? Does it have cracks? Um, to find out, for instance, if it's a developer, to go on and find out if who is this developer, what is their track record, to go back to the structures that they have developed 5 years back and look into it and say, are they still standing? Are there any cracks? You know, to question even, um, why is the person selling, right? And those are one of the few things that I came across over time, and I'm like, I wish I had known better, right? And you'd think that it stops there. I bought way under my affordability because I was in a position that I felt that I don't need anything big. Um, I took what I needed. Instead of getting a 5-bedroom, I just said I just wanted 2 bed, 1 bath, nothing expensive. I was comfortable with that because life had taught me through driving a convertible that you don't need to spend everything. Just take what you need so that you can optimize on your opportunities. So fine. Then it went on, and then I bought into the second one, right? I bought from a developer. All is great. They are busy constructing, you're signing all these contracts. And as I'm doing all of that, there's nothing in my mind that questions what I'm signing, right? The OTPs, every process that was undertaken, um, I was not fully a part of it. I gave concern, but at most I did not understand what exactly it was that I was signing, right? And it's a pity that I signed. I think one of the things I signed was the transfer letter from the bank. I don't work in the bank, but it's a letter that says that the bank can actually pay this person because they've actually completed your building and all of this and all of that, right? But here's the thing. 2 years later, I find a crack in the house. Okay. Now that's terrifying, right? It's a very terrifying process to go through. And I'm thinking to myself, what could I have done better so that this does not reoccur, right? And yeah, I've learned my lessons as well through that. And I think the other time that in this journey of mine, there was a time whereby I was investing myself into student accommodations, right? But here's the thing. I was trying to be a jack of all trades. You know, when I'll call it seinach, whereby you do not want to divide your profits, so you want to take on all the responsibilities. And I think that was the biggest mistake I've ever did, because I went on to buy this huge piece of land, right? And there I was on my way to develop it, right? But there were so many things that happened in that process that I actually didn't get to have a student accommodation, but the lessons that I took from there were worth noting. And those lessons are what pushed me even forward to say, okay, this is the current state. How do I use all this that I have learned to actually acquire more properties? I must admit, it hasn't been an easy journey. I've lost quite a lot of money, and I don't think that investing in property is easy. Um, I don't take it for granted that I kept going. But I think the greatest thing I have learned, not even the greatest, there's many things I have learned, but currently that which I can take home right now is that there's so many things that I always say, I wish I knew better. And it improved when I started involving myself with people that are in the same journey, and that has made all the difference. There's so many other deals, guys, that I could speak of, but um, yeah, I think for now, I've gotten to speak of it. I haven't really spoken about my flipping that I've made money as well. There's points where I've made money. It's not all bad. Yeah, but that's investing, guys, for me. That's my journey in property. I don't know how to share what more I should share, but I assume that the conversation will be driven by all of us in the room. Thank you, guys.
I have some questions for you, but I'll ask that once all has spoken.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Thanks so much for that journey. Quite interesting. I don't know if Will and Fred have any contributions they would want to make towards their property journeys.
So,
Not
you can go.
anything on my side with property. I want to speak on the car side of the things.
Okay, cool. Fred?
Yeah.
Neither myself. I'm not a property owner. I'm currently still renting. Yeah, I just have questions for the speakers afterwards, and I'll also just be adding on the car side.
Okay, cool. So let me tell my property story. So guys, grab a chair and grab a beer and sit back, because this story is a wild one. I'll give you guys 10 seconds to grab your beers and get some popcorn or something and listen to the story. So let me get started. So, it was my wife and I. We were looking for a property to buy. We were looking but not looking. You know when you're on Property 24 and you're just browsing for the fun of it. If I was a billionaire, where would I stay? And you're just looking at all these fancy places. So, I think we're kidding ourselves, because we were looking but not looking at the same time. We're not serious. And then we started seeing some really nice houses, and we actually got very interested. Did the budgets and everything, and lo and behold, we knew what we could afford. So cool. We saw our first property online, and we actually did like it. And when we called the agent to say, you know what, we're interested in viewing this property, they unfortunately told us that it has already been sold, and it was it was on the market for a very short time, so it was a very hot property, and it was gone. But then that activated something in us. Now we really wanted a property just as good, and yeah, we started looking. And then we found one that we were interested in actually viewing. It stood out amongst the rest that we saw, and yeah, we liked it. So we go and see the property, and like the previous speakers said, we also made the mistake of judging the book by its cover. And we saw the property. It looked good. It looked as good as it was online, and we sent through the offer to purchase. Okay, cool. For those of you who are not familiar with property purchasing, it takes around 3 months to get everything done. That's the maximum, at least. So cool. We receive the property condition report, which basically states everything that's wrong with the property. And let me just backtrack. So when we were viewing the property, we found something attached to the house, and we asked the owners to confirm if it would be included in the house or not. And when we were viewing the property, they said yes. So anyway, we get the property condition report, which basically states everything that's wrong with the property. We went through it, we were happy, and we signed the papers and sent it through to our lawyers. Now, mistake number one, we didn't know that there was legal fees, right? And no one actually told us that, you actually need to pay legal fees when buying a property. And legal fees can range from around 40,000 upwards, depending on the value of the property. So, after we realized we had already sent through the applications and everything, and we were like, you know what, let's see how far we can go before they start asking questions. Where's the money? VBS, hashtag. So, cool. Luckily, or by God's grace, we managed to get the funds that we needed for legal documentation and everything. And the property sale went through. And then, cool, we were receiving the keys from the agent and viewing the property, obviously, after purchase. First thing we realized, there was more cracks on the wall than was stated on the property condition report. Second thing we realized, that special item that they said would stay there was actually taken out and left a lot of damage on the walls, you know. So obviously we were very upset, and we'll dive into what happened in that process later on. But we were upset, and at that point nothing much could really be done. It could be done, but it was a question of is it worth the effort? So anyway, we moved into our house, we did all the repairs, and we're living good. And then came to our very first body corporate meeting, you know. And I remember vividly, me and my wife were very excited. You know, it's our first body corporate meeting. We're going to meet new faces, fellow owners, fellow investors, you know, making money, financial freedom, yada, yada, yada. So we're in this meeting, and they start discussing very minor things at first. And then the property manager drops a hammer on us. Well, on me and my wife specifically, because we didn't actually know what was happening with the property. I'm not even sure that people knew that we were new owners. But anyway, we find out at our very first body corporate meeting that we're attending that that specific complex is around 2 million rand in debt. This is the part you guys take a sip of your beer. Yes, 2 million rand in debt. And me and my wife just look at each other like, what the hell did we just buy? And why didn't we think of actually checking what the financial statements look like for this property? And at that point, it's too late. You can't pull out. Everything has gone through. I mean, the only way to pull out is to obviously sell. But, you know, after all the hassles and work that you've already gone through to get to that point, you know, you're on the sinking ship and you have to help everyone else basically float. So cool. We bought a financially disturbed property, you know. And I know that this does happen at some body corporate meetings where people do get shocked to find the skeletons that are there. But anyway, that was the first hammer that was dropped. And then came the second hammer. And this is one I should have probably seen coming, because I do remember when we were viewing the house initially with the agent. She was, you know, agents, they brag a lot about how the property is so nice. You know, she was saying, look how many cameras you have, look how many security guards, you know, they patrol twice a day. You got a panic button. And I actually asked the agent, it sounds like this complex has a lot of break-ins for so much security. The only thing that she had to mention was that they've got helicopter patrols, and probably something would have rang in my head that this is probably not a place to be in. But anyway, at the body corporate meeting, it turns out there was also another new owner who was also being shocked by the revelation of the debt situation. And one of the topics on discussion was changing the securities and possibly increasing patrols on the complex grounds. And our fellow new owner asked, why so much security? How often do break-ins actually happen here? It seems like a quiet place. And everyone else just looked at each other, you know, like, is she asking a serious question, you know? And when they realized that she was serious, they actually told her, well, we actually had a break-in at gunpoint last week, you know? Now me and my wife look at each other again, we're like, yo, what the hell did we just buy into? This is the part I let you guys take another sip of your beer. So yes, that was our experience, right? But the good thing is that since then we actually haven't had any issues. It seems like the body corporate managed to get things in order. I'll only find out at the next meeting. We haven't actually had ones lately due to COVID. But that was my property experience. I learned a lot from that. And yeah. Fred, you want to ask your questions now?
Cool. Thanks, Des. For those that's just joined the space, thank you guys for being here. We are discussing on purchasing a house and a car. So we're just sharing our experiences. Yeah, I wanted to start off with Is. I remember Is mentioning earlier to start that you overbought for your property. What did you learn in the process? For someone who's wanting to buy, how do they not make the same mistakes? What are the things that should they look at to not make the same mistake as over purchasing on a property?
I think it stems around doing your research on the property that you're going to buy. So some of the things I learned was that I don't know if I should mention the figures, but the property. I think. Sorry.
I'm saying you can if you'd like to. You can mention the figures.
Okay. So I think we overpaid by 200,000 to 300,000 rand on the property. And it was purely based on us liking the property and not doing our full research. So what I mean by that is we went in, looked at we loved the area. The area was safe. Like I said, there was a school nearby. It was a great family home, but a bad investment property. What I mean by that is, it was a great family home. It was a 4-bedroom house, lounge, 3 bathrooms, great fittings and everything. So for a family setting, it was great. But in terms of investment property, it wasn't ideal. The agent sort of oversold the property to us, I must say, because when I then looked at, I think 1 month or 2 months after staying in the property, and I looked at the property reports that were coming through, I realized that there was a property in the area that was being sold for, 300 to 200 less than what we purchased our house. And at the time, I was 21, so I really didn't know much about negotiating and standing my ground. I was still very wet behind the ears, so to speak. I wasn't well versed in negotiating, looking at the offer to purchase, questioning some of the things. I think I could have done better, but I was 21 at the time, and I was working for the bank. I had a kitty, so to speak, because I had the staff rates. I didn't look at the numbers too well. And if you're wanting to go in investment property, you have to look at the price you're paying. You have to look at over the term of the property whatever term you're going to have this property for. What is your return on your investment? And I did not do that. So I went in and took a 30-year bond. And as we know, the longer the term that you take in terms of your bond, the more pricier it becomes. So I took the longest term, which was shooting myself in the foot, because the capital and the interest I was going to pay was going to be more than a 20-year bond, as an example. I based my decision having been in the bank, so the repo rate was great. But when I left the bank a few years later, and I was now put on prime, that really, really impacted my cash flow that I thought I'd done when I made the initial investment, because I think at the time my bond went up by almost 3 to 4,000 rand of what I was paying because I left the bank. So if you're going to invest, please do your homework. Yes, we put a deposit, but we took a longer term, which impacted our return on investment. I paid a lot of interest. The first few years of having a bond, you're basically servicing the interest, and I was just servicing interest. And when I look at what I got in terms of rental income versus what I paid and the bond that I paid, I think I just it was a break-even point for me with the whole property, having looked at the numbers afterwards as opposed to before I went into the investment.
Yes, don't forget to tell them to check the financial statements. Don't be like me, guys. Ask for the financial statements of that complex.
So mine was a standalone. So I actually didn't ask. There wasn't. But one thing I've learned is that if you're going to buy a standalone, please, guys, ask for the building structure, because what I've realized is some owners add on structures to the property, and they don't update the municipality on the building structure. So you essentially a new owner with a structure that the municipality has no idea of, which they didn't approve. So they can actually come to your property and knock down whatever new structure has been put on by the previous owner, which happened to us. So look at the structure, try and not to overpay, and if you can, please do your return on investment. Look at the period that you're taking, whatever investment property. If the shorter the period, the better. If you've got a deposit, try and put a deposit, try and negotiate the price, and if possible, don't buy a family home as an investment. I mean, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom property is a family home where people want to buy and own it. They don't want to necessarily rent, which I found and I struggled with over time, because to try and get a tenant, I had to find people with big families, and that really, really messed me up in terms of tenants and really just trying to break even on the property.
Cool, thanks, Es. I just want to move on to Molatelo, Lady of Property, for those who don't know. You mentioned that I'm not sure if you're currently doing it, but you had an agreement with one of your old landlords where you would rent out in the place that you're renting. Am I correct?
Fred, I was renting out a unit.
Okay.
The strategy is called rent to rent. Literally, you're acting as an estate agent, really, but you're taking on the responsibility and paying the owner the fee that they requested. For instance, it's like she would say, if we are going to do that, these are your responsibilities. For every room, I'm expecting 8 rand from you, but the tenants are paying 10 rand. So you would keep the difference. I'm not sure if I put it nicely previously.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to ask you about the logistics to that. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, I quite understand. I'm not sure if any other speakers.
Yeah. I've got a question for Mr. Tez.
Yes.
Cool, man. So, so your story was interesting. I just found myself wondering, though, on a couple of points that you made, especially the points that we had to grab a beer to, right? And one of them was the 2 million debt, right? That I am going to assume that debt belonged to the complex as a whole, right? You bought into a sectional title, or rather, you bought a sectional title, like property in a complex, right? So this 2 million, when you find out that this complex owes 2 million, how did that affect your like property that you bought?
Well, it didn't necessarily affect it directly, if I can say. So basically, this is how they managed to garner up this 2 million rand debt. And I believe there was some that was also owed to SARS, if I can remember correctly. So basically, there's all these instruments that the complex has to lease out, such as refuse, property rates, the general property rates from the municipality, and electricity and all that. So, for example, if there's people that are not paying, that fee adds up, not towards that specific unit. The municipality doesn't go to that one unit and ask for their money. They basically ask for that money from the complex as a whole, right? And then one of the biggest issues that seemed to affect that debt was that there was a very big reluctance for property owners to increase the levies. They could see they were drowning, but they refused to increase their levies. And me and my wife, looking at each other, especially from an accounting background, we didn't understand where this logic was coming from. Secondly, I think it was the property manager as well, which was an external entity. They didn't seem to be handling the property well. And there was a very big issue when it came to funds. So basically how it happens is the body corporate hires a property manager to handle the affairs of the complex, and then the body corporate would pay this manager a monthly fee for their services. One of the revelations that came out was that this manager, the property manager we hired, was in control of the property's accounts. So they would pay themselves. They would literally, go to our bank account and send money to their own account, which was a very big red flag. And then there were other minor issues in terms of procurement that just didn't make sense. Building a 100-meter wall and paying 70,000 rand, and it was issues like that. So basically, what happened was that the complex as a whole was spending more than it was receiving from the owners, and that was the biggest issue that they had, because I wasn't part of it before I joined.
Okay, and did that maybe result in maybe a spike in terms of your levies that you would pay monthly? I mean, you did say that the other owners put up hands when it came to those talks that we need to up the levies, perhaps. So, I'm just trying to understand what risk is there? When you maybe buy into such a complex and you find out what you found, that, okay, apparently we owe 10 million. So how does it actually affect my one unit that costs me 500,000, right? Is it going to be the levies thing, maybe? Am I going to feel the pinch there? Or am I not going to feel anything? I should just not even worry that the complex owes 10 million, for instance.
I wouldn't say don't worry. So on our side, yes, the levies did eventually increase, and we were happy about that. But it didn't increase by the amount that it needed to. But on the debt issue, and this was brought up in our body corporate meeting, is that if that debt is not handled, especially the fees that you have to pay to SARS, there could be really big consequences for all the property owners there. And you must remember that basically the custodians of that body corporate would be the body corporate members that you elect to represent you. So the onus is on them to make sure that everything is in order, you know. But then how do you approach a body corporate, especially if they are quitting rapidly because the whole thing is just a mess, you know? But at the end, there is a very big risk for the property. You might lose your property, which is what they alluded to in our meeting that happened to some complex they knew, that the debt was just too much and everyone was just kicked out by the powers that be. Hopefully we can get someone with the expertise who can clarify on that aspect. But there is a very big issue if the debt is not handled.
Guys,
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting. Sorry.
Are you in the
go
same
ahead.
situation?
yeah.
No,
Oh,
no.
sorry. I
Okay.
started
Sorry, you
asking.
can go ahead.
Sorry, well. Sorry, guys. So, the situation you're speaking of is a situation that I have. Worst thing is I have 2 properties in that estate, right? Well, I guess you learn the hard way. Well, it's my learning curve. But here's the thing. How does it affect you when your finances are not well maintained, right? I concur with the host that you might lose your property depending who you owe, right? Because some people just pay their taxes and ignore everybody else. One of the impacts that happens is that, remember, you are compliant, you are paying your part of your levy. But whenever we do maintenance, we look at the balance sheet, right? If there is no money to fix, then it's uniform, because decisions are taken. You cannot take a decision and say that you're going to maintain the roofing of your structure because you're the one paying, right? And in most cases, one thing I have come to realize is that those that are compliant actually are the ones that would be maintaining the water and the common areas, the lights, right? So you have so little budget on your maintenance that eventually the complex ends up being a scrap. Let me articulate more on this one, right? I'm not sure if you guys have been in a state whereby it's populated, whereby you have more than, I'll just say a number. You have more than 40 people, right? And you only have 15 people paying for the services that for their levies, right? So now just imagine that this big structure is dependent on such a small budget for it to be maintained, right? And then the other thing that I have come to realize, right? When there is no money and there is especially when they do preventative, not even reactive maintenance, preventative, that's very fancy, reactive maintenance, right? There comes a point whereby there'll be a sudden pressure to have special levies because people have not been paying. Clearly, they're not going to pay their dues for years within a week or 2. That is not going to happen. You come out whereby you are paying your levies, and then you also need to pay special levies, which in most cases, guys, they are ridiculous. For the unit that I am, for the 2 units that I own in that complex, there are 6. Like it's very few, and I think out of the 6 units, there's 4 that's paying. So you can imagine how much money we need to contribute, right? Now, the unit is falling apart because when I bought it, I never took the time to get an inspector on site to actually do some due diligence to check how they've been maintaining the area, right? So it went on to a point whereby very recently, actually, in this year, during the COVID era, I saw flames. The structure, the maintenance guys goes on top to go replace some geyser thing. He comes back and says, guys, the whole roof has rusted. Literally. You guys have no roof. It's going to collapse. Looking at the situation, the decision is each and every unit needs to take out 5,000 Rand. That's a lot of money. So I'm taking out 10,000 Rand while I'm paying my levy, right? And it's not only that, there's some other projects as well. You find out that the pipelines have rusted. Imagine just out of the blue, PTPT, you must take out more money for 6 months, special levies whereby you've been paying. And people have outstanding debts of more than 40,000 Rand. You know, so guys, it does affect you. I hope I showed just a smaller fraction of what it means to own a building with people. There's pros and cons to owning a building in a complex, guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think that's a bad thing. I mean, now when you have to buy a house, you have to evaluate each PTP to make sure that you're making the right purchase. Fred, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to ask. I see there's 2 requests. I'm just gonna let them contribute before we move on to Mota.
Yeah, I wanted to open the floor for any questions with regards to, for the speakers
Okay.
with regards to the property. Yeah.
We have Jazz Vilagazi. No association to Jazzy Disciples. And we've got Smiley81. I think this is Wilman. Jazz? Okay, Wilman?
Hi everyone. This is the
Hi there.
best topic that you could have brought up because it's so painful for a lot of us. And let me just say this up front. Black people, guys, we must attend meetings, AGMs. You must attend finance meetings. You must ask questions. You cannot, buy into complexes and just keep quiet. If you see a problem with finances, ask the questions. Do not be afraid of the chairperson who has been living on the complex for 20 years and who's a bully. You must ask, and you have to challenge. The key takeaway here is to remember that you are buying into a complex. You are therefore part shareholder of all of the problems, the successes and the failures of that complex. So if there's
Wilman,
yes,
I'm sorry, but it seems like you have an interesting story behind that. Can we get to the meat,
I
please?
don't wish to go into detail. Guys, so I've resigned from the complex, from the body corporate. I was treasurer, and when for the years that we've been looking at the finances and saying, okay, the levies need to increase by more than the inflation rate of standard 5% to to make up for the shortfalls, because flip, Taze, I really didn't want to have to tell the story, but we basically, when I bought here 5 years ago, we had an investment, an amount of 500,000. Here we are 5 years later, and we've got less than 50,000 of that 500,000 investment in this complex, only because we've had a number of tenants that have not been paying for that period. So one, you've got a situation where you've got managing agents who are being paid, also managing the accounts directly, to your point, or to your earlier example. And they are such bad debt collectors. I mean, the managing agent's job seems to end with sending that email or that SMS to the the defaulter, and that's where sort of their responsibility ends. CSOS, that levy that you pay to CSOS, does not help much. I don't know why we're paying CSOS. So I mean, there's a multiplicity of issues, and the law seems to favor owners, and especially if they've got kids. Guys, you will never get those folks out of the complex. There's no amount of threatening letters and or debt collection agencies that you could use. If there's children in that property, the law favors them. So when you buy a lemon, do not feel emotionally attached to that property or to that complex. Sell up, move on. I'm talking about some experiences that I've had. But the main takeaway that I really want to say is, guys, as Black people, we have to participate, because, as I said, you are a shareholder in that property, and most certainly, if there's massive debt, you will be affected by that. Whether that means, Tez, to your example, I can't imagine that the bank who, that's if you bought this property through a bank, would have overlooked the financials and not have picked up that there was this 2 million rand debt, because that's one of the things, when submitting your application, the levy statements or last AGM minutes would have to be submitted with your bond application. I think S can, affirm that. But yeah, those are some of those things that, some of those documentation that has to be obviously submitted and scrutinized by you. When you get the statement from the, from the agent, sit down with an accountant. I mean, I'm sure we've all got friends that are in the finance. Just let them peruse it for 5 minutes. They could pick up red flags very quickly over there. And I know there's that excitement of, oh man, you've seen this property, the sun, it's a sun-drenched apartment, it's all those wonderful things, right? You get so excited that you overlook the small little things, the cracks, flush the damn toilets, go to the toilet when you're looking at the property. Just flush and just hear what the piping sounds like. You will find the most interesting things or flaws, with regards to the building when you're going to view that. And go and see the property 2 or 3 times. Take your parents, take a building inspector, or somebody that's got more expertise than you do, because you can never pick up these things in the first occasion, or even the second one. You probably should go 3 times. And then also, last point is, look at the area, look at what's happening in the area. I bought in an area which it was an old Jewish area, lovely houses, but the area has changed so quickly in the last 5 years. There's a lot of micro apartments coming up. And you start thinking, okay, if there's micro apartments coming up, then you've got to think, who's going to be moving into those micro apartments? What sort of, person is what sort of person is going to be moving in there? How much noise is there going to be coming into the area, and so on and so forth? So, yeah, when you've bought a lemon, do not be attached.
Wilman,
Get rid of it.
I have a feeling, from your experience, we could be neighbors, eh? Maybe we're staying in the same complex.
Yeah, but seriously, I mean, guys, sure, property is an emotional thing, and for Black people, we in the cities, and we wow, we own something, and it's an important thing to have to show something for it. But it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Protect your investment.
With our property, I think we have a benefit, because it does seem like it is a developing area. All the amenities are right there. I think it is a good booby trap to get attraction if we do ever decide to sell. We just tell them, Virgin Active is just a walk away. This is something you don't want to miss. But yeah, no, thanks so much for your contribution. But I do have a feeling we probably are neighbors.
We'll take it offline.
I don't know if Legal Influencer is here now. Nope.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah.
Leleti?
Okay. I just wanted some clarity on.
Hi, sorry.
especially-
I'm so sorry, my lady. You first. I'll go afterwards.
Oh, okay. I saw you on
Okay.
mute, and I thought you probably fell asleep. But yeah, you'll go after.
No. Beauty before beauty, so let's let the lady go.
Okay.
Okay. I just want some clarity on the structure of complexes. So I hear there's a body corporate, there's this and that. So I just want to understand who's who and how do they get into who's the body corporate and how do they get to be there? Is it a political thing? Do they go? So I'm just trying to understand as I do my due diligence, where is like opportunities of nyaga nyaga happening and where should I look for the red flags? I don't know if my question is clear.
It is. Lady, do you want to answer that? Or should
I think I can try.
Okay.
Leleti, a body corporate is a body, an association, a group of people that, depending on the size of the complex, they will be elected to make, to have discussions and make decisions on the way in which your structures, your buildings are managed. How is it spent? How the money will be spent on their priorities? They'll be reporting to you. It's not that you will not have a say in it, but it's sort of like your your houses are South Africa. I think this is the best way I can put it. And then you elect a party. These are the few people that you'd be putting in place. You'll vote them in so that they can make decisions on your behalf. That's what a body corporate does. And sometimes you have people that have their own agenda within a body corporate, because remember now they are given powers, right? Sometimes you would experience that, I think it was Tess that mentioned it, that there's a person that does the maintenance, but their fees are so high. They sort of do as they please with the books of the complex, or they just don't do the work. They barely come for meetings. They barely have meetings, actually. Or you have a great body corporate, people that show up and actually retain the value of the structure. I'm not sure if I'm answering you. If there's anything you'd love to follow up on.
Okay, thanks. It makes sense.
I've got a question for Mr. Smiley.
He's just dropped off. Unfortunately.
Time to do so. Hi guys.
Hi there.
Just if I can. Hi. Guys, first of all, thanks very much for this talk. I think it's very informative and we don't have enough of these things, so much appreciated. Two things from my side. And this goes out to the guys that are very new to this property investment issue and are still living at home. My first story is quickly. I was living in Johannesburg and I just moved when one day I got a call from my landlord, and I was renting in one of these growing areas of Johannesburg. And they said to me, listen, somebody needs to come over on Saturday just to come and view the unit. So the guy shows up, apparently he's from the bank, and checks the walls, the window sills, and just asks me general questions about the complex. I then had the balls to actually ask this guy, so why are you here? And he says to me, no, your landlord is actually looking at buying another property. And so we need to come in and view this property in order for us to ascertain state of the property, as well as them then deciding on giving her more funding. It turned out that my landlord, actually, where I was paying rent of about, I think it was 8,000 rand, and this was 2013, my landlord was living at home with her parents and buying property while still securing herself, while not having a bond to pay. And I found that to be so interesting. So for the guys that are coming into the property space and you are at home, I do think that guys that don't have to worry about additional costs when it comes to properties, this is the best time because this is a buyer's market. that's a good goal. My second issue is kind of related to my first one. I ended up buying properties in suburbs, as it were. I live in a complex. I live in a complex because of security reasons and safety, and for me, that trumps anything else. Current challenge that I have, one, is the market much longer, know that it is a buyer's market, and I'm saddled with two properties sitting in places, which and I'm struggling with tenants having to pay rent, and it's getting to a point where the bank is saying, "Hey, listen, you're not paying your monthly installments," and I unfortunately am tied to my tenant who's not paying me at some stages. So I'm trying to figure out how can I best overcome. I'm trying to figure out how best can I overcome this issue of having a tenant that's not paying, even though we're living in a complex and I've got managing agents. I appreciate any feedback from you guys, and thanks for sharing once more.
I'll just chip in something there. When we bought our property, we were also juggling whether we should move in or rent it out. And we discussed with the agent that listed the property what the options were for renting out. It's not a very popular agent, but this specific one basically told us that they offer two options. The first one was they just collect the rent and we self-manage. So we basically get like 95% of the rent amount. And then the other option they gave us was that they manage the property and collect the rent on our behalf. But obviously the fee is higher in that respect. What was interesting about this offer, though, was that they stated that regardless if the tenant pays or not, they will guarantee us our year's worth of rent. And then they will deal with all the legal issues in the background. So I don't know if you can probably check if there are other agents that offer something similar to this. But yeah, does anyone else want to add something? I saw you got disconnected.
I think we just.
Okay. Yeah.
So you might need to repeat.
Hey Tez, please DM the name of this agent of yours, because that sounds like a very
So
good
maybe I'll
one.
just
Okay, Will, I will.
someone else talking.
Sure.
Can I talk?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
One of the ways that I manage my risks in the rental space, right? I normally, I think one of them, I can't really remember the name, but please pardon me. I think it's Rent Master or something like that. It's not an agent that looks for people for you. I normally look for people on my own. Like I just advertise it on my own and look for my own tenants, and then do due diligence. I check them out, if they're working, if it's whatever documents they provided me, it's real. And then I use the TPN network to check on their credibility, how have they been, and things like that. But there are companies that actually you can use to ensure your rental income, right? For the reason I only use them, because I feel that they are cheaper than using an estate agent, because remember now I must pay the estate agent a management fee for sourcing tenants on my behalf and managing them. And then the fee again that it would be added is that rental protection cover, right? So I just prefer, this is me, I just prefer adding a rental protection cover so that at least I can mitigate my risk. And I think the other question that the gentleman asked, the legal gentleman, I hope you can just remind me. I had such a nice one for you. Oh, Can you just remind me what the other question was? I think it had to do with
Was it Smiley?
pardon?
Was the
Hello?
gentleman Smiley?
Oh, sorry. Can you just remind me
You
what the
can
other
go.
question?
Go.
Hello?
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think it was with regard to. Oh, yeah. The other thing I wanted to say to the gentleman is sometimes the type of structure that you register your company impacts on your returns, right? If it's a rental property that the aim, it depends on, I'm not an accountant, right? But I'm happy that the accountants are here and the legal guys are here. But I have a guy that manages my structures. What I mean by structures is we look at what the purpose is. If, for instance, it's to rent it out, we would put it in a company rather so that we can also record our losses. Because remember, if I am not getting any income, but I'm paying, what do you call it? I'm paying a monthly fee to the bank, then there's an amount that I'm losing that I can report to SARS. So, yeah, guys, I think that's my 2 cents worth of comments.
Question.
I had
lady.
comments. I think he had questions around the non-payment.
Yes.
One thing you can look at in terms of non-payment, you can if the arrears are quite a bit, you can approach the bank to restructure the home loan if there's equity in it. So if you've paid a bit more than what you would have been paying on a monthly installment and there's a bit of equity in there, you can look at restructuring the home loan. I know during COVID, I know personally I took the COVID relief opportunity last year when the banks were offering it, purely because I didn't have a tenant and the previous guy had left me with a lot of debt. So opportunities there, you can approach the home loan division to restructure the home loan as one of the options. I know restructuring comes with its own cost, but it might be something that you might look into. And the other way of trying to get the tenant to pay is an acknowledgement of debt. So the tenant signs an acknowledgement of debt, and you basically try and negotiate with them. If they can't pay 100% rental, can they pay 70? Can they pay 60? So at least it covers you slightly, so you're not really servicing the bond on the other side and not collecting rental, but negotiate with your tenant through the agent if you have one, for them to at least cover a portion of that rental so that they're not just paying you at all. But small claims court as well works. It takes time. And the other routes are a bit illegal. I know some people remove the front doors to try and get non-paying tenants, but that's not really the legal route. So we won't mention those.
Thanks for that idea, S. I definitely will not try it. Wink, wink. Will, you have a question, and then after you, we have Spot Run Man.
All right, cool. So thanks. I've got a question for Lady Wa Property. Cool. So you mentioned something quite interesting that Tez also slightly touched on. You mentioned that there's something called a rental protection insurance or something like that, that basically covers you in the event that you have a defaulting tenant. So I just want to find out more on that. So I'm gonna go with a scenario, right? Like I just want to see how effective this thing is. Let's say you have a property and you have a tenant. The tenant pays for the first 3 months, and then they start defaulting thereafter. All right, so they are defaulting. Now you are trying to get them out of the property. Right, as S says that there's Boma small claims court and whatnot. Let's say that process takes 8 months. Does this insurance then actually pay you your like full rent for 8 months if we go with that type of a scenario? Or are there maybe some like limits placed? Maybe the things like Guguti, they will only cover you for 2 months or something like that.
Hi, Will. So this is how it works. It works. There's commonalities between this insurance and the insurance you'd find for a car and all these things, right? They would give you options to say, let's take a car one because everybody probably has owned a car or knows of someone that owns a car and how to search for insurance. That ask you, are you looking for comprehensive cover? Or are you just looking for these 1, 2, 3 products, and then that would inform the cost at which you'd be paying on a monthly basis. And part of it, there would be a pre-screening, right, to understand the tenant that you are bringing to them so that they can analyze the risk and understand if they want to go into business with you. And I think the other thing that you need to note is the code would also inform the period at which they would be willing to pay the rental losses, right? And then the other thing that I can add to that is that they also ask you if you want to use their lawyers for eviction, right? Because they realize that this is a problem in South Africa. I mean, property owners are losing money because of this problem. So yeah, it's literally what I haven't really posted much on my page, but I always preach that share your risks so that you can enjoy your resources, right? So you're giving someone else the risk of worst case scenario if someone doesn't pay, then at least you know that someone is going to take on that problem that you might have. But as previously stated, guys, that numbers are very important in property investment. It just wouldn't make sense if you're gonna buy a property, rent it out. After all these costs that include this rent protection, you end up actually paying the tenant to stay in your place. So yeah, I hope I've answered you.
No, thanks. Makes sense.
Spot Run Man.
Thank you. I don't have much to say, but to assist those who are either buying, selling, or just want to do evaluations on their properties, I can assist with due diligence, because that's one thing we tend not to focus on when we're buying. And you start to realize some defects while we have already signed all the papers and we have already settled. So if you need any help, you can DM me. I will assist you with that.
Spot
Can I
Run
just
Man.
ask a question?
You came to advertise your business. But anyway, guys, yeah, if you do need to contact someone, Spot Run Man is available. Spot Run Man, how can I do due diligence on financial statements?
we can assist you on that as well. I wasn't expecting this question.
You see, we're testing your business. You advertise here, we question you, we grill you fast.
No, not really advertising. I didn't want to say I can even go to an extent of doing it for free, but I know it's the time that I spend and most probably the transportation of moving from where I am to your property. But I am there. I've seen people who have signed for properties that they don't even. Yeah, you get my point.
Okay, I know. Fred?
Now, my question was to Mr. Spot Run. How long have you been in the property industry for?
I have been in facilities for all my working career. So I've been doing that ever since I started working, even if when I've been working, like not doing this full time, but it's my core business. Hence, I want to leave my employment to focus on it fully, because now I can see there's a lot of opportunities in this business.
Last question. And where do you operate in South Africa?
Come again?
Where do you operate? Like in South Africa or another country?
I'm in South Africa, but we also do cross borders, mostly in Namibia. We've done a lot of work in Namibia, but I'm in South Africa.
Cool, thanks.
Spot
Spot
run, man.
run,
Sounds
man.
like, you sound like you're a debt collector.
Sorry.
You've got that deep voice. If you came and knocked at my door for money, I would just pay.
No, I'm just passionate about what I do, and I also want to be there for my people when they need help. I mean, I by qualification, I am an electrician who have done also wireman's license and stuff. So when you're selling, I can issue the license. But what I've noticed is, in the process, I have wanted the same services, and you find that they are sending these other ones, and when they come, you can see they don't even know what is due diligence. And even I can promise you, most of us here, when we buy properties and we received that yellow page, which is called certificate of compliance on electricity, we don't even know what need to be filled in there. And most of us and unfortunately, even the banks, they don't have people who will evaluate whether that thing has been completed in full or not. All they see there is just it's somebody have completed it. And it's unfortunate that when there is fire or some other stuff, nobody is called to answer to what they've completed. But I'm just passionate about my job, and I do proper due diligence. As much as somebody was saying, if I come knocking on this door, they can pay.
Lady?
Spot run, man. I think beyond the corridors of this space, I think we can actually have conversation, because I have a network of people that have a career in property, and I would love to hear your view on due diligence and your experiences, really. Yeah, thank you.
You're more than welcome. We can take it further than this, but trust me, this is what we do, and we make sure that you get value for your money.
Spot Ryan, man, speaking of value for money, expect an invoice from me in your DMs. Both you and lady, since you guys are now connecting here, as an advisor, expect my invoice of 10% or something. Wilman, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just another observation amongst mates of mine who have 2 or 3 properties is that they don't treat those properties as businesses. And I think it's important that preferably, you have a separate bank account for those properties, and you have a reserve for anything that should go wrong, whether that be a geyser burst, or you need to give the place a lick of paint before you get in a new tenant, etc., etc. You don't want to come short, of finances because you've been dipping into the rental income that you've been receiving. So yeah, that's just it's a huge misconception that people make, that it's income to be enjoyed as opposed to treating the property as a business. So yeah, just keep that in mind, please.
On that point, Wilman, I was actually thinking of later on having that kind of discussion, especially for startup entrepreneurs and business owners. And that idea actually stemmed from a friend of mine who basically mixed his business earnings and his personal earnings. And I think that would be a very good topic to tackle on its own, separating the business from the actual person. Fred?
Hi, sorry, please. I just had to go out. I just came in back now.
Oh, I saw.
Should we move on to discussing about cars?
Yes, we should. I see Lady What Property has dropped off. Unfortunately, maybe she'll rejoin. Okay, let's move on to cars. S, you had a very interesting story that I saw on Twitter, which is basically, which was basically the catalyst of me inviting you here, where you purchased a new car and you tweeted a thread of your experience. And I do know, I think you also mentioned some time ago that you also had an unfortunate experience as well. But do you want to elaborate on your recent story of your vehicle purchase?
Yeah, sure. So I'll set it out as I go, but there are just a few pointers that I think I wanted to touch on. So about 3 months ago, we had the unfortunate incident of a hijacking. So our car was taken, and we had to sort of get a new car. And those of you that follow me know that our household has decided to only have one car so that we can invest our funds. So we only have one car as a family. So we went through the process of trying to claim from insurance. We started the process, and because the previous car was fully paid off. However, we didn't transfer the car from the bank's name into our names, and that process can take a month or two, guys, for you to deregister the vehicle. So once the vehicle is hijacked, it's marked as stolen, you have to go to the Department of Transport for it to be deregistered, because your insurance will need the deregistration document in order for them to pay out whatever payout they're going to pay you out. So that story aside, we started shopping for a car 3 months ago. And part of that whole package is that I'm a firm believer in having your credit record up to date, because should you need any funding at any time, you'll be in a great position to negotiate interest. So things I'll quickly just highlight things to look at in terms of your credit or what the bank looks at. It's basically your repayment history. Do you pay your debts on time? Do your debit orders go through? Do they bounce? If they bounce or your account is always overdrawn, it impacts your credit record, which lowers your score and has an impact on your overall credit record. Your repayment history, do you repay on time? What is your credit mix? What sort of debt do you have in your overall debt? Do you have credit card? Do you have personal loans? What's your credit mix that you have? How long have you had the debt for? The length also impacts, because that shows the bank or the financiers that you're able to repay debt. So our credit record was good. I usually check through Clear Score just to check, my credit. Once in a while I check just to make sure there's no fraudulent things happening on my account. So we knew our credit record was good. We then started shopping around, looking for a car. We went through various dealers. We shopped around from dealers. We buy cars. So typically, I'm a fan, or we're a fan as a family of buying demos, because our intention always when we buy a car is to keep it for a long time. So we like to have low mileage demo cars. We don't go for brand new purely because the value just depreciates ridiculously. So we prefer to go for demos. So we shopped around, came to a price range that we were interested in. Once we came with a price range, we approached our bank, our primary bank, for a pre-approval of the vehicle. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you can go to your bank and get a pre-approval. It's not binding. The pre-approval just basically gives the bank an idea of what your income is and what your expenses are. And based on that, the bank is then able to give you what you qualify for. So a price range. They'll give you a price range of what you qualify for so that you know when you're shopping what price range you should be looking at. Some banks give you a pre-approval with the interest. Other banks prefer not to give you an interest because it's an indicative interest. The interest rate is subject to you finding a car and terms and conditions. Excuse me. So some banks prefer not to give you an interest. Some banks do give you the interest rate at the approval stage. Once we got the pre-approval, we'd already shopped and we found a good deal on the car. We got pre-approval from our bank, and while doing the shopping, we found a really good demo car, and it was being financed by one of the car finance brands. We found that in terms of their interest that they were offering, was cheaper than our bank, who gave us prime. Now, me being a previous banker, having worked for the bank, I negotiate my interests like mad. So when they gave me prime, I wasn't very happy with the prime and went around and shopped around, and we got prime minus 0.5, which is 6.5%. I'm a fan of deposit. So the next stage was after we got the price, we got the interest. I'm a fan of putting deposit. I know some people are not. And I'm a very open-minded person. Some people prefer to put a deposit and lower the installments. We knew what we wanted to be paying on a monthly basis in terms of our installments as a family, and the installment was a bit higher, so I wanted to put down a deposit. Now, there are other ways of funding. You can put down a deposit, or you can take a balloon. I know amongst our FinTwitter family, balloons are looked down on, but keep an open mind. A car for me is a depreciating asset. I could spend my money on better things, and that's investing for me. I've been investing. I know a little bit. I'm not saying I'm a professional, but I think I would make use of my money elsewhere better than paying a deposit. But in this instance, we decided to put down a deposit, which also which had an impact on our interest that we're paying, because the bank basically, it shows goodwill to the bank when you put down a deposit, because you're putting your own money in there and it's looked upon favorably. What else? Dealership. I'll just touch on dealerships. If you're going to go through the dealer, so always try and get a pre-approval. If you're going to go through a dealership, a thing that banks don't tell you, and I know this because I used to work for a bank, there are certain dealerships that the bank gets good business from. Those dealerships, you usually get a good rate from them because they give a lot of traffic to particular banks. So they sell a lot of cars. So therefore, if you're going through that particular dealer, you're likely to get a good rate from the banks that they do a lot of business with. Dealerships where it's a bit quiet. Remember that the banks and them have a commission structure. The banks and the dealership have commission structures. They're basically a middleman. The dealerships are middleman. They somehow need to recuperate their costs. And how do they recuperate their costs? Through the interest charge. So it's cheaper to go directly to the bank as opposed to you going to the dealership. If you're going to go to the dealership, the pros is that the dealership does the application on your behalf and sends your application to all the banks, and then tells you which banks have offered you the best rate. So that for me is a plus. The con of going through the dealership is that they're middlemen, and therefore to recuperate some of their commission, they might hike up the interest. So there are pros and cons of that. Insurance. In our case, we shopped around and luckily our company offers a staff insurance. So in terms of insurance, we're able to get a good deal on insurance. And just the maintenance. I think, guys, if you're going to buy a car, it's very important to keep in mind what do they call it? I don't know what they call it. I think it's a maintenance plan. Usually a car, they'll say, it's important when you're shopping for one to just ask about the kilometers. Usually some cars will say 100 kilometers, it's under maintenance plan, or 3 year or 4 years. Usually it's the kilometers or the years that comes first, but just make sure you confirm. If the car reaches, let's say if it's 100,000 kilometers as an example, the maintenance expires and you start paying yourself. With our previous car, our maintenance plan ended at 100,000 Ks, and we then took out, there was a monthly insurance where we were paying to obviously cover the costs of every service that we had with that car. And then I think at 150,000 K, that insurance, what they were offering in terms of covering our service costs every time we took the car for service, they were going to exclude important things like the brakes, the gearbox, so major parts of the car, because beyond 150,000 Ks, it doesn't make sense for them to still have the maintenance insurance. So make sure you are covered. Otherwise, whenever something big happens on the car, you're liable for it. And if you don't have an emergency fund, it can really mess you up. The other point I had was fixed versus variable rate. In my case, I don't like fixing my rate, because I know usually banks will offer you, if prime is 7 now, they'll usually offer you an interest above the current rate. So if prime is 7, you might get prime plus 0.5 or prime plus 1 to fix your rate over, let's say, 5 years. For me, it doesn't make sense, but I know each unique individual, everyone is different. It might make sense for someone to fix it, because people are saying because of COVID, the rates are the lowest. They're the lowest they've ever been and will ever be. So some people right now are fixing rates. However, I don't believe in it, because I believe in paying extra in the cars, and I'm not really a fan of fixing my rate. So that's, I think, my story in a nutshell.
Thanks for that, S. Fred? Hello, Fred.
Oh, Tiz, hi. Thank you, Ace. Thank you for that. I have one question, but I'll just save it. I'm not sure if any of the, I know, Well, could you share your experience with purchasing cars or a car?
Yeah, sure. I think S has already actually covered everything that I actually wanted to talk about. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and share my experience that has been with purchasing new cars, right? Not used cars or demo cars, as S's experience was. Right, cool. Yeah, so I asked to be part of this space to share my recent, rather interesting personal experience trying to purchase a new car, in hopes that I can hopefully equip anyone listening to this space with the necessary know-how, so they know what to actually look out for when you are thinking of buying that brand new, set of shiny wheels at your dealership of the choice. I am basically going to convey to you, the listeners, how I have come to the conclusion that that financing a new car loan via a dealership is a bad idea, right? Especially when you are uninformed of I will call them scheming ways that these dealerships, like especially in the new car departments, that try to extract every last penny that they can possibly extract from you. Before I go into the details, I just want to make it clear that this is my experience, right? With the history of new cars that I have financed via dealerships. Probably is different for other people, but this is my experience. Cool. So in my history with car ownership, I financed, I think, 3 new cars, and all of them have been via a dealership. This newfound knowledge that I'm going to share with you is actually based on the what could have been car number 4 in my case. Right, so let's get into it. So beginning of May, I decided to purchase a new car via a finance deal, as is always, because I like paying money over to the banks. So one pleasant day, I decided to pop in for a visit at my local dealership that has the car that I was looking for. So I get there, I waste no time. I state what I want and also how much my budget is in terms of the amount that I am willing to part with monthly. And I also make it very clear, right, to the salesman that if this installment that I gave them is any way above even, like what, 100 rands, I will gladly just cancel that deal and just walk out and go to the next dealership till I find what I am looking for. So I said all of that because I am now aware of the power of what a credit record, like having a healthy credit record actually does for you. With the other debts that I took up where I actually benefited from, being able to say to a what lender, hey man, I don't agree with this ridiculous interest rate of yours due to, here's my credit record. I am aware of it. It's actually quite good. Excellent. I haven't given any lender any issues, late payments, blah, blah, blah. So please, what are your reasons? Give me quantifiable reasons. Why are you giving me such a ridiculous rate? Cool. So there was some context as to why I was going in there, demanding a certain installment in terms of what I was prepared to pay for. All right. So, yeah. So then, coming straight from the salesman mouth, what following words that I remember thinking to myself that, here we go again. I've heard this before with my previous, 3 new car purchases. So words along the lines of, do not worry, our finance person will make sure that they get the best possible deal for you. Red flag. So when you hear such words, it's standard, it's part of the game, but yeah, just know that they are lining you up for a very thorough screwing over. Right, so perfect. So before I hand in my particulars needed by them for them to apply for finance at the various banks, I asked them for the quote so I can see a detailed breakdown of what is actually included, in the this new car that I am interested in. I specifically asked for that because with my previous cars, things that I overlooked because of emotion over reason, where I'm just excited to get behind the wheels of my brand new car. I forget to question things but okay, so what are these things? What are these things, Boma, extended warranty, documentation, like handling fees, like, and all of these extra costs that suddenly pop out of nowhere. Cool. So I asked for a quote. They provide me with the quote. So in that quote, there were the standard items as per my experience with previous cars, and these standard items was a so-called documentation fee. I think this now, I think they are calling this a documentation fee now. I think it was formerly known as a service and delivery fee. I think this is the one that got, um, was it BMW, I think, in 2017, in trouble with the National Credit Regulator, where they like ruled that they have to pay back, people that took car loans through them. Like they have to pay them back this service and delivery thing. I mean, this service and delivery fee thing of theirs, because it was found to be unlawful, right? So, but more on that later. So this fee amounted to, I think, 6,000, if I remember correctly, which is quite ridiculous. And then there was also the license and registration fee. And then the other fees that were linked to, my trade-in price for my current car, blah, 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 so on. But the main two things was this ridiculous documentation handling fee and also the license and registration fee, priced at 1,500. Perfect. Yeah, as I said, I started wondering to myself what is actually included in this documentation fee. But I decided, let me just wait up until they've made formal applications to the banks, so I can know where I actually stand in terms of my monthly installment as requested. Right. I think I instructed them that I would like to apply with WesBank as my first preference, as all of my previous new cars have been with them. So the finance person at the dealer handling my application came back to me the day after with the quotes from the WesBank, Nedbank, and Absa. And yeah, this is where the fun actually starts about my experience. So WesBank, my first preference, came back with prime plus 4%, right? So that's 7 plus the 4. That's like crazy. And then Nedbank came back with prime plus 3.5. And then Absa came back with prime plus 3%. I mean, yeah. I was just at a loss of words. Am I really, really, really witnessing this? But yeah, so I immediately started hurling some expletives in my head as I was confused as to why are these people giving me such crazy, insane interest rates. I mean, I am well aware of my credit record, right? And I have actually made it work with other lenders by telling them that no, I do not agree to this nonsense that you are giving me, because you don't have reasons as to why you are giving me prime plus whatever, right? Yeah, so I think I need to also add that my last financed car with WesBank was prime plus 2%. I accepted and questioned nothing back then when I bought it. Why? Because emotions were quite high, so emotions were clouding reason. I wasn't, interested in questioning, but why? My credit record is good, blah, blah, blah. I was just interested in getting on the highway and driving my brand new set of wheels. Yeah, so the offers are in from the 3 banks. So I replied back to the finance person and basically told them that these offers are literally insane. That's what I actually said in the email. I made reference to my excellent credit record and past payment history with car loans as justification for them to go back and talk some sense to these banks, especially West Bank, because I've been with them through my car loan history. So they went back and then they came back with the following figures. West Bank came back with 3.5 now. So that was 0.5 off from the initial quote, which was 4%. Nedbank came back with 3.4. So they had originally given me 3.5. So they just took down 0.1 from the initial quote. Then Absa stayed at the 3%. And of course, again, I complained and basically told the finance person that if it is possible, can they please send a middle finger to West Bank, as I didn't understand why they are showing me such insane treatment. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Why are you giving me prime plus 4? The previous car was prime plus 2. For what reason? So I resolved to cancel the application for so I resolved to cancel the application with this finance person and this dealership, for them to only come back and say that, okay, look, we will actually give this thing one last try. I will speak to the regional manager of West Bank in one final attempt to get a better rate. And then after 1 hour, to my surprise, I think it was an hour. So to my surprise, this finance person from the dealership calls me, or rather they send me an email first and then they give me a call. So now apparently West Bank is now giving me prime plus 0.4. So that's 7.4% now. So we went all the way from prime plus the 4 to 7.4. I was like, no man, fuck, there's something fishy here. Right. So again, I mean, the thing that I was mostly banging my head against the wall with is then what the hell is this credit record for? What do they mean that keep a healthy credit record for you to get the interest rate that is the good blah blah blah. And then I was wondering to myself, I mean, does this mean that people with average credit scores or maybe good credit scores maybe get far more worse deals than I either get? Is this the norm? But immediately just kicked that to the side due to my experience of having negotiated other credit agreements with using my credit score that I am well aware of, putting it up there and using that to negotiate off from. Right, so I suspected that something is fishy here. So I went ahead and canceled this application with dealership. I shall refer to them as XYZ. So I canceled the deal with dealership XYZ. And then I decided to go to dealership ABC, right? So they are just a couple of kilometers from dealership XYZ. I get there, and then I meet up with the new car salesman, yeah. And then I basically tell him my story that I'm looking for car 123, and this is how much I want to pay. And also told him about my experience with dealership XYZ. And then this guy, he started laughing, and then he invited me to his table. And then he proceeded to ask me what my credit score is, which I told him. And then he laughed again and then proceeded to show me his computer screen. Something that they don't show you at these dealerships. You just see them clicking things and coming up with figures and whatnot. So this guy actually showed me the his computer screen. And then he showed me how they as a dealership for new cars, right? How they basically apply for finance at the various banks. He showed me that there's something called a dealer introduced commission, short for DIC. I think S touched on that a little bit, that there's this commission incentive thing that dealerships have with banks. Yeah, but the legal term for that, or the correct term, it's called a dealer introduced commission. You can actually Google that and find out the horror stories of that thing. Yeah. So he then further explained that the rate that the dealer gives you is seldomly not what the bank actually gave you. The dealership get incentivized they get incentivized by the banks to actually get you to sign on with a much higher interest rate than what the bank originally gave you. All right. So there's some sneakiness like between dealerships and the banks, where there's no transparency of this nonsense that they do. Because if a bank incentivizes a dealer to actually, if Bona they give you prime, and then they're gonna incentivize a dealer to make you sign with 7+4 and make you believe that that is a good deal. Yeah, now that sounds crazy to me. Yeah, so where was I? He further explained that they usually score big with clients that have a good to excellent credit record, because the dealer can actually apply at the bank with the lowest possible interest rate, which he explained to be usually prime -1. So apparently the dealer applying at the bank, this is a thing of them applying with a interest rate that they tell the bank that, hey, we want to apply for this so and so amount at prime -1. Apparently that is called a scheme deal in the motor vehicle space or industry. So it is called a scheme deal. So with my experience now, he told me that the reason that WesBank, the interest rate from WesBank was probably the lowest, but they inflated it so that I can go with ABSA, as they were the one with the lowest out of the three banks, which was prime +3. Reasons being that they were probably going to score more money from this DIC thing with ABSA, right? Cool. So then he called a friend of his at WesBank who could access my application with the dealer XYZ. And yeah, what do you know? I had actually got 6.3% for my application at XYZ. So that is prime -0.7. All right. And then he further explained that the other banks probably gave me something lower, probably prime -1. So in my case, ABSA must have been the one with the lowest interest rate, hence why their original was, the prime +3, right? So the dealer were trying to get me to go with the ABSA, as I think that they were going to score more money from this DIC thing of theirs if I went with ABSA. Hence why they positioned it as the best deal, being the lowest from WesBank, which was my first preference. Right, so I then proceeded to ask this guy, but why though? Why? This all sounds it sounds like sneaky and unethical and dishonest to me, right? And then this guy And then like he replied and said that, hey, bruh, it's just business, you know. I mean, this dealer introduced commission thing is clearly stated in your contract. Otherwise, it would be illegal. But it's fine print, you know, like fine print that we don't read. Because usually when you are buying a brand new car or any car of those like of any sorts, usually emotions are at the forefront, right? Yeah, emotions are at the center stage, and you are not aware that you are actually being screwed over because you're busy, you know, imagining yourself playing I was feeling beyond maybe on the highway, you know, cruising on your brand new set of wheels, leather seats, and whatever. Right. Yeah, and you're not paying attention that you are being lined up to pay way more than what you could have actually got if they were fair. Yeah. So I want to go back to the so-called standard items that were listed on the quote that I asked at dealer XYZ. So this guy now that I am talking to at the dealer ABC, he then explains that this so-called delivery fee or service, this so-called delivery fee or documentation fee, yeah, that's what they had it as at this dealer XYZ. So they called it a documentation fee at 6,000. Yeah, he said, Uguti, you can actually not do with most of the like stuff that is actually bundled into that 6,000 thing. So we then explained Uguti, this 6,000 covers things like them putting that like ribbon on the car, right? When you are gonna collect the car, they put that ribbon there, woman, congratulations, whatnot, and balloons, and also things like a bottle of champagne if they go that far, and also these so-called free gifts in the form of, a cap and a shirt. That's what I actually got from my last car. Apparently, it was a free gift, but it was actually not. And then this half tank of petrol that they put in the car so that you can like drive it off. Yeah, so you are actually going to pay for all of that over the term of the loan. Now imagine you are paying for the cap for like 5 years or like 6 years. A cap. Right? Like let's say this the thing is worth 250. So over 5 years you've probably paid 800 or like 1.5 just for a cap. It's all silly to me. Yeah, so but you are not aware of all of these things because we do not ask what is actually bundled into this thing. On the like petrol thing and the like ribbon thing, you can actually bring your own ribbon and also, a 5 liter scoop of like petrol if really, really it is a fact that your so-called new car doesn't have petrol. So all of this I'm being told by this salesman at this dealership. All right, so and then I would ask you, Muguti, but then why are you telling me this stuff? Are you not killing, business for you? It's like, hey, bruh, there's like basically two ways to make money in this field of ours, right? It's either you tell people the truth and then you push numbers because by word of mouth, I will purchase a car from this guy. He fought for me to get 6 point whatever percent, and I will tell other like people, and that's how he actually makes his money is through pushing like numbers. And yeah, two that he's actually he was actually the best new car salesman for 3 years in a row at, this dealership ABC, right? So then the second way is, yeah, it's just them screwing you over. because they will score big on the commission side of the black things, right? So those are the two ways. I think I need to summarize now. So by saying that I am grateful to this guy at the dealership ABC because he really like revealed something that I was not aware of like previous, right? So my advice to everyone who wants to purchase a car, especially a brand new car, right? Clearly state upfront what you want, and just clearly tell these guys that I am aware of your like shenanigans, and I am not for that. So please, when you are busy with your like applications or whatnot, 100% transparency. This thing of Boma DIC or whatnot, I want nothing of that. If you are gonna insist on that, bye bye. Right? Do not be afraid to walk away, because trust me, you will get the same car at another dealership that will listen to you with, all right, sure, you've actually caught on to our sneaky ways. So yeah, we will actually the give you the rate that the bank actually gave you, and we will not apply any of the silly like nonsense. All right. Another thing is question everything to the last cent. Right. As I said, if you are at a dealership and you are hitting them with these hard questions, they start being shaky, leave. Reason over emotions, leave. You will find the same car at another dealer, probably at a much more better rate where they will be honest with you. I am sounding like a parrot now. I am repeating the same thing. Last thing on this documentation and what this documentation fee and service and delivery fee. Question that thing. Question it. Because with the car that I wanted to buy at dealer XYZ, where the fee was 6,000, right? With this new guy that handled my application, it went down to I think it was 1.8. Yeah, 1.8 for like things that actually make sense. Why they could charge 1.8 for this. I cancelled everything: ribbons, champagne, balloons, or whatnot. All of those unnecessary things. Free T-shirt, cap, and whatnot. Right. Yeah. Question. Be aware that the dealership will always bump up your interest rate that you got from the bank for them to score a commission. So yeah, that is my experience. Hopefully I would have helped a lot of people that want to buy the cars, or from them being screwed over by getting prime plus the 4, whereas your credit score is good or like excellent. That's it. Yes, sir.
There's over 100 people in this space session right now, and
yeah,
they all have the exact same question. They're asking themselves, and I know they're asking themselves this question because I'm also asking myself this question. What kind of car did you buy?
Sorry.
Which one? Like previous number 3 or number 4 that I was gonna buy?
The one you're buying now.
Both.
Both?
Yeah, the
I
one you're
can't
buying
share
now.
that. Sorry. Unfortunately, I can't share that.
We're all curious now.
Like I don't want to.
Man.
No, like I don't want to leave as to my financial status, but yeah, it was a German make, if I can say that. It was a German made.
Okay, everyone who's listening who was curious, I've asked the question on your behalf because you're too shy
Yes,
to.
sir.
Fred, did you want to add something?
No, I just wanted to say thanks, Will. That was a really in-depth story, and I don't really have questions. To everyone that's still in the space, thank you all for listening in. I don't have much questions. We have gone past the set time, but we are going to continue should there be any other questions or comments that people have. But I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. This space is being recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube. Tiz and myself will send out the link after the space.
You know, after hearing Will's story and thinking back to the first car, that we bought, I think I got thoroughly screwed over, you know, because now I'm thinking about that champagne, and you know I enjoyed that champagne, and I didn't enjoy it for 5 years. I think I enjoyed it in one day, but I probably ended up paying it for quite an extended amount of time. I got a whole gift hamper. But anyway, let me get into my actual story. As you know, guys, you might need to grab a beer and, you know, get comfortable. If you need to go to the bathroom, now's the time before I actually get started with my first or our first car purchase. Okay, I'm assuming everyone is back now. So let's get started. So, okay, we have a hand. Yes, lady?
Oh, no, I was just affirming I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you for confirming. So, you know, when we were buying our first car, we were very ambitious as to the car we want. You know, we're still young, and you know, you always shoot for the stars. Always looking at these German cars, and then reality hits when you do your budgets and you find that okay, maybe it's not feasible. And I know most of you have gone through the same thing. I'm sure there was no one in high school who said the first car I'm going to buy will be a Toyota Tazz. We all had very high ambitions and probably had reality slap us in the face when we actually wanted to buy the car. And that's where we started, basically. So I remember we went to the first dealership of the brand of car we wanted and were very excited for. And obviously we wanted it new because we didn't want to have to deal with maintenance and all that. So cool. We go to the dealership. We tell them, listen, this is the car we want. Unlike Will, we didn't say this is how much we're willing to pay. We just told them that, yo, this is the car we want. We didn't know any better at that time. So cool. The guy told us how much it would cost. And he saw from the looks in our faces that, you know what, you guys probably can't afford this. So let me give you a neat trick when calculating the premiums for your car, especially if there's no deposit or no balloon payment. And the trick he basically told us was, for every 50,000 of the value of the car, expect to pay 1,000 Rand in installment. And when we did the quick math in our heads, we found that, okay, we probably can't afford a brand new car. So we went back to the drawing board, went online, searched for used cars, and we found a very, very well-priced car. Underpriced, if the way it seemed, it actually was underpriced. And it was at a reputable dealership. So it wasn't one of these popcorn dealerships with the owner's surname stitched to the naming of the company or the dealership. It was actually a branded dealership. And we went to view the car. And when we did the viewing, we did the test driving, everything seemed well. And like Will mentioned, all we wanted to do was to get on the road. So we sent through our papers, and the deal was done. So cool. We go and collect the car. And what do you know? There's a big bottle of champagne, a nice ice bucket with chocolates, which were inverted commas free, so we thought. And we drove the car home, and to be honest, we actually did enjoy that car a lot. Well, after a few days, we realized that the aircon was not working, but that's not the point of the story. We enjoyed the car nonetheless, even without aircon. We just wanted to drive. Things got interesting when we wanted to sell the car, though. So we first offered it to We Buy Cars. They gave us an absolutely ridiculous offer, so we didn't even consider it. And then we went to Wheelie. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. They advertise a lot on online and on radio. So we decided to give them a try. So basically how Wheelie works is your car basically gets put up on auction, and dealerships bid for your car, and you get the highest offer, and when that offer comes through, you can either accept or decline. So there's no one forcing you to actually take the offer. It's up to you completely if you want to continue with the sale or not. If you decide to continue with the sale, you have to take the car to the dealership, or the dealership will come to you to make sure that the pictures and the condition of the car is as stated. And obviously they will have to test drive it as well. So cool. We took our car for them to view it. And the first thing that came back while the guy was test driving was the clutch. Apparently the clutch was done. But this was obviously some years after we had bought the car initially. So we didn't have any dispute there. And then the second point was that there was overspray on the bumper. And if you're wondering what overspray is, that's basically when they spray paint the car, and by mistake they spray the black parts. And this is an indication that the car was previously involved in an accident. And after years of driving that car, we found out when we were selling the car that it was actually in an accident. And I'm sure that is actually illegal. They are actually supposed to tell you at the point of sale that the car was involved in an accident. And in hindsight, it actually hit us that that's why the car was so cheap, and that's why the aircon wasn't working. But hey, we didn't care at that time. But yeah, the car we actually had bought, even though it was secondhand and was involved in an accident, it actually retained a lot of value. And in the sale of that car, we were actually break even from point of purchase to point of sale. So we didn't experience any loss with that specific asset and moving over to our new car. Is there any questions? I know Fred has got a question. There we go.
Oh no, I wanted to offer
Oh,
the floor up to any of the listeners that do have any question or comments to make.
okay. But anyway, so I'll go on to the second car we purchased. To the listeners, okay, I see there's a request. Oh, Investusiast. Investusiast or Graphs. You can go off mute. I don't know if I should continue. Investusiast. Okay, I'll just continue. So when purchasing, yes,
Can I just make a point there, like Tez? I think with that experience that you just, told us now, like it highlights something very, very, very important that we should be aware of. When you are out in the black market to purchase a new car, be it new or like old, that you're supposed to, like keep your emotions, back, like at your backpack and or backpack, and like reason should always be at the forefront, because things like missing, or rather not questioning the vehicle accident history of the car that you wanna buy. I mean, you are already like screwed there, right? So very, very important. Always, ask the right questions, and the uncomfortable ones, right? That these dealerships do not like. Ask the questions. Go as far as you taking the VIN number. There's something called the VIN number, right? That every the car has. You take that and then like take it upon yourself to actually go search for the like vehicle accident history for this car, because you like never know. I mean, such as in the case, you are dealing with a sneaky salesman that will not disclose such important info for you, that will actually catch you 5 years down the line when you wanna sell it, and you find that the car is worth actually nothing, because that's then it hits you like, oh, so this thing has been in 5 accidents. So be on be on your feet, like
yeah,
question everything. Yeah.
yeah. Before I continue, let me see if Investusiast is here.
Yes. I just noticed that I was actually on mute.
Oh, okay. Welcome
Yeah, so I
to the
was
space.
yeah, thank you guys. Thank you very much. I just wanted to find out one thing. Did you get the service history of that car?
The one I bought,
When
yes.
yeah.
So it had a full service history. Yeah, because we bought it directly from the dealership and the manufacturer of that actual vehicle. So the vehicles they buy back, they were able to repair it, and I think there's a specific standard of vehicle they only buy back. So probably that's why
Yes,
when
yes.
we sold it to the other dealership, it didn't really lose value, even though there was
Yeah.
overspray.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because most of the recognized dealers that I know that sell second-hand cars, they'll normally even highlight that we don't sell cars with accident history. Like they actually examine the car before they they sell it. So I think that is also one of the things that you should look out for when you are looking for especially a second-hand car.
Most definitely.
I'm done.
Most definitely. No, I agree with what you're saying. But yeah, live and you learn. I've definitely learned from that experience. When we bought our second car, I wasn't taking any survivors. We were very rough. So what happened was we went to one dealership. We told them what car we want, and the salesperson wasn't very helpful, and they assumed the wrong side of us. They thought we were those young kids who just want fast cars, and we weren't really getting any service from them. We test drove their car, but the service was very poor. And then we went to another dealership, and the service there was outstanding at first. The service is always good before you buy the car, but once you sign that dotted line, the service quality tends to change at times. But anyway, so we went to view this car. Unfortunately, the car we wanted, the specifications were not here, or they were sold out. So they had to bring in a new vehicle from the port. That's where the vehicle was. And they had to drive it up from Durban. But anyway, what we did is we went to our bank and did our what do you call this, pre-approval with them, and this bank tends to give their clients a prime minus one interest rate. I'm not going to mention the bank. All I'll say, it's a horse that is racially confused. That's all I'm going to say. If you know the bank, yeah, we went with that bank. So we got the pre-approval from them, and it was prime minus one. And what we then did is we used that pre-approval as leverage for other banks and for the dealership as well. And I think, Will, if you had probably done the same thing, you probably would have bought the car from the first dealership if you had that leverage. So we went to the dealership, the second dealership, and we said, listen, here is our racially confused horse, and this is the offer they have given us. But the thing is, the dealership had a certain special at that time with their vehicles, and that special was only with the financing house that they had, which was Westbank. So we told them that, listen, we'll take your special if you can leverage the dealership with our offer. And they actually managed to do that. And that was all fine and dandy. Then came to signing the documents. And as Will stated, there's always those ridiculous fees. But the funny thing is, when I questioned them on the document fees and all that, they said, oh, this specific dealership actually includes the price in the vehicle. So if the vehicle costs 400,000, it already has those costs included. So you don't pay anything extra. What you basically see on the website is the price you sign on the dotted line for. And I won't lie, when we did actually go through the offer, I asked them to show me exactly everything that is in that documentation, delivery fee, and all that. And I specifically told them that if there is any champagne bottles, to please remove it. We will buy our own wine, and we don't plan on buying champagne over 5 years. I can't imagine myself buying JC Leroux and paying a monthly premium for it. And luckily, that dealership actually didn't include any of those gifts and stuff, which was actually quite surprising. And this was a new vehicle as well. But there was just some annoying delays after we signed the dotted lines, but it wasn't anything that was deal breaking. And probably the leverage we had because of the status of the bank probably put the dogs down, so they didn't really attack us with the full force of trying to screw us over. But yeah, that was my second experience. I'm sure if I go for a third experience, if we do decide to buy a third car, I'll see how far I can push it and maybe try and get a prime -5, if that does even exist. But we'll see. Are there any questions, comments, statements?
Nothing from my side.
Okay,
I think we should maybe wrap it up if there's no questions or comments.
Okay, there
I
was.
just wanted to find out. You mentioned that you asked them to exclude the champagne and so on. Is the price of the champagne that significant even? What kind of champagne is that even? Like, I just want to know, is it really that big of a deal?
So this is how it works basically, right? So there's a delivery fee that is usually included, or it's a delivery fee, which is included in the price of the vehicle, which is basically what your bank pays the dealership, and then you pay the bank on a monthly basis. So the champagne that you think is free is actually not free. You're actually financing the champagne because they're including the price of that bottle in the cost of the vehicle. So, I mean, it's not really just one champagne bottle. Sometimes it's a gift. It's a ribbon that they put on the car. It's a gift pack that costs around 500 Rand or 1,000 Rand, you know. So if your vehicle costs 180,000, that gift bag added on will make it cost 181,000, which the bank will pay. So that small fraction, you know, is what you're paying for over 5 or 6 years. I mean, if I did want a gift, I'd rather buy it cash and not finance it through the bank. So that's basically the thinking from my side. Will, I just wanted to add, you stated BMW had that issue with the costs that they put in, and they were ordered to pay back. So the issue with that was that the costs that they got financed were costs that are not supposed to be financed, or costs that are not supposed to be added to your finance contract, and they were ordered to pay back all the interests that they charged through that financing scheme. I'm not sure how it ended, but yeah, they were ordered to pay back those fees.
Fred?
Yeah, clearly it didn't go anywhere though, because I mean, like, we're still getting charged for, you know, champagne and all of that stuff over a period of 5 years.
Yeah. But sorry, lady, I'll just let you speak just now. The rules are actually changing next month. I think it's the 1st of June or July. there has been a drastic change in the rules when it comes to dealerships and vehicle purchases. One of the biggest ones is that when they're selling you the car, especially if it's a new car, they should sell you the service plan separately and they shouldn't bundle it up. And they've basically opened it up for other service companies to enter the market. And the user or the buyer of the vehicle will not be penalized for deciding to go with a different supplier of servicing the vehicles. So I know, like recently, you lose your warranty if you service with Car Service City, or if you go to service your car at what's that brand, Bosch. But the rules are changing that aspect. There's a lot more. I should have probably sent you that article. You probably would have held back on buying a new car or buying your car if you saw what changes are coming and how it's actually going to benefit the customer when it does get implemented. I'll just let the other speakers enter now.
Sorry guys, I just have to excuse myself. I've got to go eat, but thank you so much for all the speakers. Thank you for the listeners for being here. See you guys next week.
Thanks, Fred.
Sorry, Tiz, I've got to leave.
No problem.
Cheers.
Lady?
I just want to make a quick one. I think I'll spend 3 minutes on my story. I relate with everybody, but mine is quick, really. I just want to be specific to it. It was a DSG 1.4 Golf convertible. The speed, the top was off, everything. I took a test drive. It was lovely. Listen, the experience made me, it was an emotional buy. I went in, I bought it. I had just got a new job, new money, new pay, Uppington. So I had planned to move to Uppington with the car. I mean, I can't just move without a car, right? There I am on my way to Uppington. But before that, I'm a lady of property. So you can imagine I negotiate at every phase of that process. So now it's a behavior I have. I went and I negotiated it, everything that you guys are saying, right? But there was a danger in it. My negotiation included to say, I do not want this warranty, right? That you're offering me with the car that you're saying is costing me 15,000. It didn't make sense to me, so take it off. Those are one of the things that I took out in my purchasing of my vehicle, right? And it just made sense because it put a few rands off that actually catered for my insurance. Happy days ahead, no problem. Then the worst thing happens. I get to Uppington. Then my car decides to die off. Oh, before I get to Uppington, I did all the due diligence you guys were talking about, the VIN number, check the engine. I called my friend that works at Audi, for instance. Actually, he works at Audi. He checked it out for me. Everything was fine. I was like, oh, well, I've measured my risk, so take everything out. Got to Uppington, the car broke down. I think it was something called a water bottle or something. It was overheating. Fine. I call the guy. I'm like, hey, dude, your car is not working. What is wrong? Come take your car. The first thing that guy asked me was like, lady, did you take the warranty or whatever that nice word was? I was like, no, I took it out. He's like, then it is no longer my problem. Okay? So we need to be careful of what we are saying we are saving on. It was a second hand. And yeah, that's one of my lessons. Then, okay, I fixed it with my own money. Then I was like, being the risk mitigation lady I am, I got these covers that they tell you that if your car breaks down, for a handbrake, they'll give you 5,000. The engine, they'll give you 15,000. I took that cover because it was cheap. Okay, life goes on. I fixed it. I'm like, because I was still happy. It was enjoyable. I mean, it's a convertible after all. Then I think 4 months later, I got a job back to Pretoria. Like, oh, nice, more money. Then I moved back to Pretoria. I think within 2 months, the gearbox, because it was an auto, something happened and it was dead. There I was in Arcadia saying, guys, help me, right? The gearbox costed me something along, I think it was 30 or 40. This is like 5 years back, if I'm not sure, 5 or 6 years back, but it doesn't matter. It costed me about 30 to 40 grand. And that insurance that was cheap could only give me 15K. Yes, it cushioned the effect, but here is a problem. So, in the process of being careful of what these guys are putting in the numbers, I think we also need to be careful of not becoming extremely too frugal about it, right? And fine, then I went on, I fixed it, and then fine, life went on. So here's the thing: when you get to Pretoria, the area that I work in, you don't have enough parking spaces, right? So the argument was that what's the point of taking my car every day when I can just use the REA services? It doesn't make sense to pay for parking, pay for the car, you're paying for everything, and it's unnecessary because I can access REA. I do that. And then I realized that I'm paying almost 10,000 Rand every month for a car that I use I think I use less than 200 kilometers at most in a month, right? So I think my other argument is when you buy a car, consider what value does it bring to you, because so many of us are parking cars that we do not need. So yeah, guys, I think that's the short end version of it. those that's my 2 cents of my experience of buying a car. Thank you.
Okay. Apparently, if you get one application and then you leave it out and then you try something else, you actually get penalized on your credit score, and you might get apparently you get seen as desperate, and then you get off rate with your next one. Has anyone experienced any of that, and that can tell us how true that is?
Um, so it depends how many applications you do in a particular month. I mean, if you're doing 4 applications at a time, and you're doing it once every week, that does have a negative effect on your credit score. But let's say if you go and you do your credit check, and they are done all at the same time, they get your current score, and that's what's important. And then your score will obviously improve as you pay off, or you start paying that debt. But it's not something that's like really bad. When your credit score goes down, it's not like they're going to minus 100 points for sending through an application. It's something minute like 10 or 14, which you can easily recover in the next month if your credit record is good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tobile?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say that from today's space, what I picked up the most is that emotional purchases do not often turn out good. And I just wanted to recommend a book by Mavis Ureke. It says Managing Emotions for Financial Freedom: The Invisible Forces Driving Your Money Habits. Because money is most often driven by your like your emotions. And I just think from today's space, I also picked, especially from Will, that if you are taking decisions based
Oh, I think we lost her. Tobile, we lost you there for a moment, or is it me?
No, she is not audible. Maybe she has challenges with her speaker.
Oh, I
Or
see.
she's connecting.
Yeah. While we wait for her to reconnect, guys, if you do have any questions or contributions you'd like to make, you can send through a request, and I will accept you as speaker.
Okay, I think for me, I just wanted, you mentioned that we should accept the warranty. Do I still need that if I have insurance?
Yes. So insurance doesn't protect you against the manufacturing
Mechanical way.
defects. It's actually the defects. So there's wear and tear, which they don't cover, and they don't also cover manufacturer defects, which is what your warranty covers. So basically, how it works is insurance doesn't want to double insure. So if they insure manufacturer defects and you get a warranty as well, it means if something happens, you can claim twice. So to eliminate that, insurance has eliminated or has excluded manufacturing defects, which you can only get cover through the warranty, the manufacturer's warranty. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wanted, because these dealers are always like, no, you need the warranty. But the only problem I have is that the car market is so speculative. It's like people just don't give you the right prices. It's just crazy, especially if you are a girl.
You know what you should do. Here's a trick that I can give you. If there's a car that you want and you want to know what the actual price of the car is, so let's use a 2016 Ford Mazda, right? All you need to do is contact an insurance company and ask them to quote you on the retail value of the vehicle. They're going to ask you if it's new or used. Obviously, you'll tell them it's used. When they give you the quote, they will tell you the actual value of the car. And then you can use that to gauge what the price or the price that they're selling, is it under or overpriced. That's a very neat trick you can use.
Okay, that's very useful actually. Thank you very much.
No problem. I work in insurance, so I know I know these things.
Okay,
Is
maybe just a quick one while we are still there at insurance. I quite don't understand here in Namibia, like they always tell you that the how can I, the when, like, they say that the what is it? Okay, whatever. They say that your license is the one that determines the insurance premium, which I find really funny, because for me, I think what actually should play a role is the market value of the car, and not how long you have had your license. How true is that?
That
I
is
think that is such.
that is very
And you
true.
can never convince those guys. You tell them that, no, I understand the formula, what. Ah, no. I've tried, it didn't work.
So It is true because remember, for an experienced driver versus a new driver, it's very different, right? Someone who just got their license 2 months ago cannot drive as well as someone who's been driving for 10 years, you know. So that does play a very big factor. More especially because new drivers are quite nervous on the road, and they're not very reactive. They don't have the experience of reacting to situations. So the likeliness of them getting involved in an accident, as compared to a veteran driver, is quite evident. So that's why there's that extra premium, and it's not about the intensity of the accident. It's not like the vehicle will be written off, but how likely is it that a new driver will have dents on their car that they will probably claim, you know? And I know there has been some advice that has gone out there that says if you're a new driver, don't buy a brand new car. Buy something that you can bash around while you learn how to drive. So in that sense, it only makes sense for insurance companies to charge a little bit extra for newer drivers and for people under 25 as well, because they are seen as more risky and more adrenaline driven. I hope that answers you.
Yeah, no. I think I'm quite okay with that. Though I still have my, I think it's okay for now.
Yeah. Lady, Toby, I see you're online again. You can just send through a request and then I'll make you speaker and then you'll go after Lady. Leleti, I'm not sure if you also had something to say or to add.
Guys, thank you so much for hosting me. Sorry, Leleti. I just want to say good night, guys. I think my energy is a bit up now. Thank you so much for having me.
Good night. Thank you so much for joining. By the looks of it, we're planning to go until 3 o'clock. That's a joke, but yeah, thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate the contribution you made. And I did get a few DMs appreciating all the speakers' contributions. So thank you so much. Lileti, did you have something to add?
I actually wanted to ask a silly question. If there's anybody that's using naked insurance by any chance and they would like to share their experience.
I wouldn't want to be caught naked, so I don't use them. I saw a hand from Anita. You can send through a request and you can just give us some insights. Tobile, I see you're back. Sorry, we got cut. Can you rephrase your question?
Thank you. Sorry, I lost connection. I was just saying, I believe we should try to get our emotions in check, build sort of our own checks and balances so that we do not make purchases that we regret, especially with regards to houses and cars, because they cost so much. I can't even go to my house story because the disappointment, and I couldn't sell because it would have been at a loss as well. But it was just, we're going to own a house. We have a house now, and you only realize later that there's costs involved, emotional costs, that disappointment that sits with you when now everything is signed. At some point I was like, no, let's just leave this deal. And they said, okay, you can, but pay 80,000 for all the paperwork that has now happened. So I say you'd rather take time and get your things later than rush into them because of the emotions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So true what you're saying. And I think it also helps knowing that, you're not the only one who has made these mistakes. And in some sense, we all have. And for those that haven't actually reached this point yet, the benefit is on you guys to not make these mistakes as well when purchasing your first car or first house. So this has been a very, very informative session. The floor is still open for questions. I think I'll do a countdown. If there isn't, then we will probably close off.
I just want to add on to what the last speaker just said.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. It's probably gonna be something controversial, but anyways, let's actually talk about it. Because I heard a couple of people earlier on mentioning it. They were saying, we are currently in a buyer's market, right? So it's a good time to actually go into property, or maybe like take out any form of debt, like loan. My opinion there is that yes, it might be a buyer's market, and I'm sure, this has been spoken about in finance Twitter before. Yes, it might be a buyer's market. So that like beautiful townhouse that you couldn't afford maybe like 2 years ago because prime was at 10%, because now it's sitting at 7. You can actually make it. Yeah, I think that actually falls into the emotional buying like space, because it's not really you're not taking a reasonable decision there. Yes, 7%, you're gonna pay maybe 2,000 less. But what if, like Tito Mboweni or, his friends there by the Reserve Bank decide to up the interest rates? Now, let's say maybe we go from 7 to the 8 or 9%. Will you be able to afford it? No. So that's where you're gonna start feeling the pinch. So I guess the point that I am trying to make is that even though we are in a so-called buyer's market, it doesn't mean just head in, like head first without actually thinking things through. Yes, you can afford it because it's 2,000 rands less. But if, it goes back to costing 3,000 rands more, will you afford it then? So when you are actually, looking to buy that fancy house of yours or that fancy car, actually, like, always factor worst case scenario. So given prime plus 3%, or like maybe 2 or 4 or like whatever floats your like boat, will I still be able to pay for this is a thing? Right. So just like cautioning on this, we are in a buyer's market, the phrase that was flying around earlier on.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you are purchasing your vehicle or car, just factor in, just add a buffer there for the worst case scenario, and to make sure that, if things turn for the worst, you can still afford it. I see there is Blessing, who has a question or comment.
Thank you very much for having me and for allowing me to speak, and thank you for hosting this space. It's very informative and very educative. I just want to ask 2 questions on insurance premiums. Does the having a foreign license affect the risk that an insurer puts on me. Like, say, for example, I come to work to South Africa, I get the necessary paperwork to work in South Africa, and I buy my car with my Mozambican license or my Zimbabwean license. Does that impact my insurance premium? That's the first question. And the second question is related to the latest developments that are happening at the Department of, what do they call it? Department of Traffic. Yeah, where they are saying now they want to put a point system on the drivers. Is that gonna affect the price of our premiums from the insurers? Is it gonna be beneficial to us good drivers in terms of getting lower premiums? Those are the two questions that I wanted to ask. And but before I close, I just want to comment on the issue of the buyer's market thing on property. I think it is best to work with if you are applying for a bond or applying to buy a car, even if they give you prime -2 today, work with 10 -2 on your own calculations and on your own estimates. And when you are paying back, I would rather just pay with a 10 -2 so that I stay ahead of this thing, because once those interest rates starts going up, it's gonna bite. And I can tell you, in 2 years, 2.5 years, we are going to go back to a buyer's market where now those who have the properties under bond, they can't pay and they are selling out of desperation, and it's not a good place to be in. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your question, Blessing. So in terms of license, if you do get it converted as per legal requirement, I think, it shouldn't really affect you. I can't be too sure. And as to your second question as well, will the point system affect your insurance premium? That point, I'm also not too sure, because I work on the corporate side of insurance. I don't work on individual covers, so the rules are quite different on that side. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen any article that has stated that it would affect someone's premium. But I should find out. If you have seen an article that is talking about that, please just send it to me so that I can have a look. Yeah, but on the point system, I am not entirely sure if it will affect insurance premiums at this point.
Thank you.
S?
Thank you. I'm answered.
Okay, thank you so much. S, I saw a hand.
Yes, sorry, I just have to excuse myself.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, everyone.
Before you
Yeah,
go,
it's,
before you
yeah.
go, sorry, will you actually appear on TV tomorrow?
Yes, I will be.
Okay, guys.
I will be on carte blanche.
S is gonna be on carte blanche tomorrow. Is it 8 o'clock?
I think it's 7.
Oh, 7. Okay. So if you
I
do
think I'll
guys,
just have to double check.
so if you guys do have DSTV, you can catch S on carte blanche Mnet tomorrow at 7. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Right. Msenti?
Good evening, all. Hopefully, you all can hear me. Yeah, it's just as everyone has said before. I'm grateful for the space and everything else. I just wanted to make one point on the purchasing of cars, which seems to be the underlying point of letting emotions win you over. So, like everyone, I mostly did the same mistake. I just let the emotions win. I just bought my car like purely based on instinct or just on emotionally. I did the research and everything else, but the day I bought my car, I was actually not even planning to buy. I literally just walked past the dealership, and the car was on the window. So I just decided to walk in and do all the necessary talks and discussion, and that's how it worked out. So obviously it was great for a few days and months, but yeah, afterwards the nasty stuff just came. So just like everything has been set up on this point. So just like one most important thing is that whoever you are or whatever you think, the emotions will always win. So whenever you buy a car, whatever you do, just make sure that you are never alone. So it's like if you walk in alone at a dealership, that's an automatic loss for you. Like unless if you buy cars for a reason. So I just wanted to add on to that. Never do it alone. Just take somebody, whether it's a friend or colleague or whoever. Just do not do it alone. Okay, thank you all.
That was very
Can I
interesting.
actually quickly add to what Msenti just said? I 100% agree with you that you mustn't be alone. So I think on my second car, I just want to say that sometimes it doesn't help even if you are with someone, because when you will convince that someone that this is actually a good deal for me, right? So on my second car, I remember my partner then actually trying to talk sense into what I was about to do. I mean, it didn't make any sense at all. So I was gonna pay more for this second car than I was paying for the first car. Right? She tried to talk me out of it, and hey man, I like laugh at myself when I think back then, like what reasons that I was actually giving. That I mean, yeah, she was hitting me with facts only. This thing is expensive. You don't actually need this. Blah blah blah. So the odd mina ngapha with my spreadsheet, I am busy trying to balance things out of my budget. Man, I need the car purely emotional, right? It got to a point where it was, now me being totally irrational on things like Uguti now, when you don't support my decisions. Why are you trying to talk me out of this? You don't support me on my decisions. Okay, sharp. She then let me buy the thing. Hey, yeah, nah. I think on the 4th month, that's where it hit home. Uguti, hey, yeah, bro. No, Lana, actually, yeah, this was about bad, the financial decision. But yeah, long story short, I recovered. But I just wanted to add, Uguti, sometimes you will find yourself convincing that person who is trying to speak reason as to you not going ahead with a bad financial decision, because at the end of the day, it is your decision. You are the one who is making that choice, right? So yeah.
There's no way out. We have Ntogozo.
Thanks for letting me speak. Good evening, everyone. I think I just want to touch on what Will has just said. I think Will suffered from buyer's remorse for 4 months after realizing that he's made a bad financial decision. So with me, I think Will, I resonate with your story. I had a car for 6 years. I had driven it for 6 years. It was still in good condition. I had bought a house. I have a gorgeous house. Everything is fine. And I had just gotten a brand new job, a job that was paying really well. So I was conflicted to say, okay, I've just finished paying off this car, and it's still it's going perfectly. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this car. So I was conflicted between should I buy property or should I reward myself with a new car? And at the time, like yourself, Will, I had a partner who convinced me to rather get into property and still carry on using the old car. But deep down, like you said, it's an emotional thing. Like you've been working so hard throughout your life, and one thing you want to do for yourself is just reward yourself. And I don't think property is something that you're proud of. You don't drive property on the road. People don't see your property on the road, but people see what you drive. When you step out of the car, whether you go home, whether you go to work, but when you step out of that car, people look at you differently. But when you have property, people are like, okay, they don't know that you have property. So I was in that situation where I felt like I've got a house, I'm fine, but I needed a second car that will let people know that yes, fuck it, I've arrived. So I think her and I broke up because of that situation where she felt like I'm advising you to do the right thing, to buy property, and if you're not going to listen or heed my advice, and you think buying a car is the way to go, and that's basically what I did. I ended up buying a car, and she kept on saying, "You're not listening to me, and you disregarding my opinions." And I think, aside from the topic, we ended up breaking up because of that thing. But I think back to you, I think you're right. It's an emotional decision, and I think a car is more rewarding than property. Yes, you have property. If you do have property, it's fine. But for me, buying a car was a way of rewarding myself. It was a way of saying, "Fuck it, Togozo, you've been working your ass off for X amount of years, and here you have this jalopy. Jalopy is fine. It hasn't affected me in 6 years, and I still have the jalopy to this day. I still use the jalopy on certain days, but I just wanted to buy a car to say, you deserve it. Reward yourself. Do I have buyer's remorse? Yes, when the installment goes off at the end of the month, you're like, shit. Buyer's remorse lasts for a day, but when you drive the car for the whole 30 days of the month, you don't have any buyer's remorse. So, Will, don't regret it, my man. You did the right thing. Reward yourself. That's all I can say. Thank you.
They always say it's better to cry in a Merc than it is to cry in a jalopy. So I think from that side we basically understand. We have Dr. Vilagazi.
Yes. Good evening, host. Good evening, guys. I just joined the conversation like in the middle, so I'm not sure if this has been covered, but I'll go ahead and ask the question. Basically, I've been driving the car that I'm driving currently for, I think I'm going for 10 years this year. So I'm looking to like buy, to get myself an upgrade. So I just want to ask on the issue of extras when you buy like a car. How valuable is that? Like, for example, get a car where they say, it comes standard maybe at, I'm making an example, 250K. And then when you add maybe a sunroof, and then you add mag wheels, then you add xenon lights, all those different extras that you add in a new car. So how valuable is that? Does it come at a, because I know some other extras in a car, they actually don't make like a huge difference in they don't even maybe benefit you. You end up taking up a high cost or paying more in your monthly premium because of something that you possibly don't need. So I just need advice on someone maybe who drives like a VW car, like your Golf especially, like which features like can I do it or cannot do it?
Doctor, like if you're gonna be driving If you're going to be the regular driver of the vehicle, one thing I've learned is that a sunroof is absolutely useless for the driver. You know, you don't see it because your eyes are forward. It's only for the passengers to enjoy. So if you're not going to have any passengers, don't get a sunroof. And it makes a lot of noise when it's open. So yeah, that's one thing to consider. Other extras, it depends. I mean, if you want a fleet accountant's car, you know, those ones that just buy the entry model, by all means, you can get that. But yeah, you will add the extras as you feel you'll need. On the vehicle I bought came with all the extras already installed, so I didn't have to add anything. But something that I really found useful was the parking cameras. It's made parking a whole lot easier for me. But yeah, other extras, you will decide if you really do need them or not. But let's see what Will has to say. He's driving a German.
Yeah, which is not a VW, by the way.
Okay, so by process of elimination, we have narrowed down.
I actually wanted to like put it back to Udokta that for him to ask this question, I mean, especially with VWs, right? Does he really need those like extras? I'm gonna assume that for you to want to go for, I don't know, maybe I will make an example, that Golf GTI, for like instance. You would probably saw it from someone else, and maybe that Golf GTI had a sunroof, right? It had a like reverse park camera. It also had you like xenon lights, right? So it goes back to like you, that would you be fine driving a Golf GTI that doesn't have a sunroof, doesn't have any of these things that I have like mentioned? Yes, you are gonna pay more, right? But in my experience, right, what I found is that those extras, you can actually cancel them out. I mean, this is my experience. You can actually cancel them out by the fighting for this thing called a manufacturer like discount, right? So with brand new cars, like manufacturers apparently the instruct these dealerships, I think, that for a model XYZ with such and such extras or like whatever, you can actually give them a discount to 30, the 40K corner the like lapo. So usually, you know, these extras that they like put in there are cancelled out by this discount. But yeah, it goes back to you. When do you want to drive a Golf GTI that doesn't have a sunroof? Then you have to make that decision. And then just to add on what Tez said about Amazon sunroof, that it's for the you and the like passenger seat. I mean, look, bro, with cars, you know, especially if I mean, it was an emotional purchase. That sunroof there, it doesn't only, I mean, it's not only for the you, but I mean, just to the add on what Untogozo said, it's for the like audience, right? It's for that like audience, like they must see, you know, like this is the guy. Ufigile, right? Look at that car of his, like mouth. It's like when you have your windows down, the sunroof open. I mean, you're the top dog. So yeah, I don't know what to like refer to that as, but the spectator value, if maybe I can call it that. That is what the sunroof is for. But yeah, but doctor, it's your decision. When do you want that sunroof? If you don't have it, then are you fine with like passerbys saying, "Ish, yeah, ne? Yona man yihle, but it doesn't have Amazon lights,
Stop,
and the
stop
sunroof.
enticing, doctor. We're going into enticement now.
No, 100%, man. Yeah, basically, remember when you buy a car, it's based on how attractive, obviously, it looks. It needs to look good to you first before the next person. So obviously, I tend to spot a huge difference, when you check out a car that has a sunroof and one then the same car that doesn't. In terms of swag, it looks good and yeah, well, apart from the sunroof, well, let's speak something like, let's say what's the feature that you don't have to be on your, pedal all the time? What's that feature, if you can remind me?
Cruise control.
Yes,
Yeah,
cruise
cruise
control.
control.
Yes. So, as someone who drives, long distances, a cruise control will come in like it's like a must. It's not a matter of an option, because it gets tiring to be always, on your foot pedal there, for a long time. So yeah, basically, I just wanted some advice on those critical, extras that you can't do with, So
But I think you've answered
So-
yourself. I mean, if it's a critical extra, then get it. I don't think sunroof helps with long distance driving.
Actually, here's some advice, like solid advice. So I gather that you want to purchase a new car because that's where these things of extras and whatnot factor in. So what I noticed through my rather interesting history with cars is that new cars, that is a fact. So new cars depreciate very quickly, especially these VWs. Né? So let's say you buy a Golf GTI that is full spec, sunroof, the reverse camera. I don't know what these Golf come with, but it's a fully kitted out car. You pay maybe 100 G's for those extras, only for you after a month. Let's say maybe you put 3,000 Ks or maybe 5,000 Ks on the clock on that car. You then go on to these websites, bomothercar.co.za. You then check, okay, how much is a Golf GTI that is basically the same spec as what I either have. Let's say, for argument's sake, you signed up for 600,000. You will find that the same model, the same spec and whatnot, with 5 to 10,000 Ks is actually 520 K. Now, so what am I trying to say is you also have the option of actually going second hand, with these cars, with these extras that you asking yourself, should I get it or the not? You can always go the second hand option where you will get a fully kitted out car, versus if you go the new car route and you only opt for a sunroof only, and then the 5,000 Ks later you find out almost this thing has depreciated so much. If I only went into the second hand car market and purchased a similar model, right, I would have gotten an even much more better deal, maybe a fully kitted out car instead of just a sunroof only. So yeah, you can also look at the demo market for used cars, as I said, if you are really out for fanciness, because those you find that they've depreciated quite a lot.
Thanks for that, Will. Oh, did the other speaker leave? Shame. Okay. We have Meg Hart, Noel.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You know, I was expecting someone white.
Pardon me?
I was expecting someone white when I heard your name.
Oh, sorry about that. Unfortunately, I am black.
Yeah, one of us.
Yes, Ngomunye Mpela. Okay, I've got two questions. What's the highest percentage that the source people can give one when it comes to when you're negotiating the price? How can you negotiate down the price of a car, and what's sort of like the highest percentage that they can go? And then I suppose the second question is with regards to bogus dealerships. How do you what dealerships can one sort of like look out for in terms of reputation, and one can look out for in terms of which are sort of like bogus and they've got bad deals, or the cars that they sell, there's lack of honesty. I suppose those are my two questions, if anyone can help.
So for your second question, I think the best thing would be Hello Peter. You'd be surprised how honest people are on that website. They go in depth with the experience. So I'd advise you check those out. Can you just repeat your first question?
The first question is with regards to negotiating down the price. Like, what's the highest percentage that salespeople can go with when you negotiate down the price? And how best can you actually negotiate down the price of a car?
So yeah, that was covered. So I think it was Lady Wa Property, but she was talking in terms of property, where she spoke and said she gave them a ridiculous offer. But yeah, car dealerships do sometimes negotiate the price, but you have to be careful with what tactics they're using, especially if it's a brand new car. Their negotiations will probably be an offer that's already there, and they'll try and find loopholes in those offers, and it's not an actual discount. You would have probably gotten that deal anyway if you didn't ask for that. But like, to bring down the price of a vehicle, the best thing is to always save for a deposit. That is the best way to bring it down. And most times, the people's negotiating power comes to the interest rate. Because you can have a really good discount on the price of the vehicle, and then they slap you with a 16% interest that you have to pay, which basically leaves you in the same hole anyway. So you have to look at it holistically. If you do have a deposit, or if you can save for a deposit, I'd advise you do that. And then your main focus would be then after that negotiating a very low interest rate. Just to add to that, if you're trying to negotiate down the price of a vehicle, it's probably a vehicle you can't afford. So I would be very wary in that aspect. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Guys, I know we can go on forever, but I think we should close it off now. Thank you so much. I actually had a very interesting topic that I'm thinking we should cover on Monday. It was sent to me by Mamu Mahlasi. and she wants us to discuss money in relationships. And this came from Ntokozo. You've inspired a new topic, and I hope you'll be a speaker on Monday to dive deep into what happened with what happened with your situation. So yeah, guys that are speakers, is there anything you'd like to add before we close off?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. I think back to I think they were asking about a VW and extras on the VW. So my second car is a VW, and I've got all the specs. I'm talking about my Jalopy, which is not quite a Jalopy, but it has the sunroof, it has everything kitted out, and back to the host. I think I'd like to disagree that sunroof is only for the passenger. I think as a driver, a sunroof reflects something about you personally, and in all my cars right now, they all have sunroofs simply because of my first experience of my first car with a sunroof. So if you need a sunroof, it's definitely for you. It's not for the passenger. I mean, the feeling, I think most importantly is the feeling you get when that sunroof is open. And whether it's panoramic, whether it's that smaller sunroof that you can just slide it open, it's a feeling as a driver that you get. So I definitely would recommend that you get a car with a sunroof.
I don't feel anything with my sunroof. My eyes are always front forward.
and think I would really like to get involved with the topic on Monday regarding relationships and money. And yeah, I think I'll delve deeper into what I had to experience in my past relationships and why to this day I still cannot find someone who can match the life that I live simply because of money issues. 100%.
It's because of the sunroof. But yeah, I think it's really a worthy topic to tackle, relationships and money, and I'm sure we can get some speakers to add to that as well. Will?
Yeah, nothing more, just on the sunroof thing. Where I am from, like in the local hood, like the policing, like when you have the like sunroof, the wide open and there's air coming in, yeah, so you are cooling your head. So yeah, it's definitely for the youth. As Ntokozo says.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. I think we'll close it off here. Otherwise, we'll go until 6 a.m. in the morning if we don't cross the finish line. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much to the speakers for contributing as well. I managed to record everything, and I will send out the link. It's on YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Monday on the next Money Talks session, relationships and money. I really want to find out how the sunroof became the third wheel in Ntokozo's relationship. But yeah, I wish you guys a really good night, and we'll see you then. Bye.